following program is an exclusive Disruption Networks production.
Hey, it's Adeline Van Dyke from Coldwell Banker Faith Properties in Utica. I always get asked, why do I love real estate? It's very simple. I love my clients. I love every single thing about helping them find or sell their home. Making sure the home is solid and ready for sale, or solid and ready for the buyer's inspection, to making sure that they're getting the best rate on their mortgage, making sure they're getting the best price on their house. You know, just everything involved in the sale is vital. My absolute favorite part of real estate is when a buyer walks into the house they're going to buy. I can feel it before they even know they're loving the house. It's just that obvious. So I'd love to experience that feeling with you. So give me a call. Adeline Van Dyke, Coldwell Banker Faith Properties, 315-404-6431. Or you can find me on Facebook or visit my website at centralnewyork.com/Adeline. Thank you, and I look forward to welcoming you home.
When it's your hard-earned money on the line that you are investing into a home, it makes sense to choose a proven professional to assist you in making one of the biggest investments you may ever make. Josh's dedication of over 20 years to the home construction industry allows him to bring knowledge and experience to your doorstep. That means you can feel confident and comfortable with his service to you. Past clients love his attention to detail and thorough written reports. By allowing Priceless Inspections to help you make a well-informed decision concerning your property, you will find that a quality inspection is priceless. Follow Priceless Inspections on Facebook or call 315-525-8725. In the Mohawk Valley, for the best real estate service, you gotta have faith. Caldwell Banker Faith Properties, 315-735-2222 or www.centralnyhomes.com.
YOLO, infidels, that's right. It's Hacker Hameen.
This is Al Schneer from the band Mo.
Hey, this is Corey Glover from Living Color.
And you're listening to EC Radio.
And you're listening to EC Radio.
Live on EC Radio with the Z-Man. So take the pizza out of your fat moron mouth. Sit back and listen before I give you a $5 face slap. You'll never forget, infidels. YOLO.
Welcome to EC Radio Podcast. We would like to thank all of our sponsors for joining the Disruption team, and we hope that you will support all of our sponsors. And of course, we appreciate you listening to this program.
Disruption Networks.
It wouldn't be EC Radio without technical difficulties. What's up, everybody? Z here hanging. I hope you're having a great day. I just figured out all my technical difficulties right here, so let's do that and switch it over. It's me, Z. God damn it, can I never figure it out? Right, chicken?
Welcome to Back Talk.
Welcome to Back Talk. That's exactly what happened. We got it left stuck on. I had the Stream Deck stuck on Back Talk. And so that was my fault, and I admit it. It's me, Z. We're hanging. Chicken's joining me today.
What's going on?
My homeboy, my partner, my tag team partner, my mans and them. Yeah. Wow. Dude, he's everything. He's all that. He's all that.
I'm the wind beneath his ass.
You're like Bette Midler and shit. And joining us today, my pal, my friend, Tim Julian. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing terrific. How about you?
It's nice to see you, man.
It's good to be seen. Good to be seen.
I'm glad you could take time out of your busy day and come hang out with us.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Absolutely. I know you've been trying to put this together for a little while, and it's fun to do it. You know, I always enjoy jumping on and giving my skewed version of how things could or should be. So it's
Indeed, and that's exactly why you're here.
Excellent. Nice to have a home.
I know we were just telling him before we went on. We're like, maybe you should do your own podcast.
Yeah.
I think you'd be great at it.
Yeah, I'd have to have a bunker in order to do mine though. So there'd be so many bombs being lobbed my way, it'd be crazy. So.
Oh, we're gonna definitely dive deep into it today.
So you're saying we'd have to put bars in the windows and
please, no windows. No windows. Just if we could dig it in the ground somewhere, that'd be good.
One thing we were talking about yesterday was Woodstock.
Okay.
Woodstock is coming up on their 20th anniversary next year.
99, yeah.
Or their 50th anniversary.
Well,
but it'll be the
depending
20th
which one.
anniversary of Griffiths Air Force Base. You were mayor at the time.
I was not.
Oh, you weren't?
I was not. I was running. I was running for council president at the time. Hannah was mayor, and I was actually kind of interesting. My first son was being born that weekend, and I sat in St. Luke's Hospital with a pregnant at the time wife, and watched the helicopter with the Woodstock logo fly people in and out who may have imbibed a bit too much. So it was pretty neat to watch from my perspective. But I had friends there going, "Oh, you should be here. This is awesome." I'm like, eh.
Well, did you have a hand in it, right?
It was interesting. Hannah at the time was stating that he was not for it. Didn't think it was a good thing. Didn't think it was a good idea. I mean, so really, no. I wasn't involved in politics at all at the time. I was just running for office. So I was completely out of that loop. So I mean, I knew the people involved. I knew Griffo and
my mistake
Giannis and stuff like that. So yeah, just a little bit before my time.
Now, when did you go into office then?
I became council president on January 1st of 2000.
Okay.
And then of course,
so the following year.
Like 6 months later, and Hannah resigned on July 3rd, the midnight July 3rd, or 12:01 a.m. July 4th. He resigned from office, which put me in as mayor at the time.
Yeah.
So.
Do you remember when we met?
I'm trying to think.
Was on that day.
Was it on that day?
I interviewed you in the laundromat.
Okay.
Wearing nothing but a towel.
That's right. That's right. You guys were big on the laundry at the time at the other show there. You guys had you had a fascination of that. I think
Keeler liked to see me naked.
Keeler has that picture of him with all those multicolored dryers we had one time with him sitting in front of it there. I know you guys tried to stuff a few people in those dryers once or twice too.
Yep. Well, Keeler's into naked fat guys.
Yeah,
that's his thing. So.
Me and Joe Load.
Big Joe.
That's funny. So that's the first time you guys met. You interviewed him just wearing a towel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I was having my clothes
Ron Jeremy style
washed right there.
I wouldn't go that far.
Bill had me have one of the girls
deep or whatever you want to call it.
Wash my clothes, and then I had no idea. I thought that was the bit, and then you came in.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "We need you to interview the new mayor, Tim Julian." I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm sitting here like butt naked with just in a towel.
Yeah.
Leave it to Keeler.
Those few days were kind of a blur, I got to admit. So it was, that was crazy. That was a crazy time.
Yeah, I was a naked fat guy.
Naked fat guy, yeah.
I mean, you just kind of got thrown into it. Were you prepared?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
No, up until that time, Hannah was saying he was going to stay no matter what. He's going to fight the charges and everything. If you recall, he was brought up on charges of sexual harassment of male employees.
Right.
4 people came out.
I heard those 4 people got paid.
They did get paid. Yeah, we paid them off. The trial was crazy. Hannah had his own attorney that said he had to pay for that, and then he took off to Florida. So basically, the attorney would start the clock when they left the office in Utica, and got unemployment and did an interview, a Q&A with him, and then came back. So that whole time, the city would be footing the bill, and it just turned into something that I think we paid that off for like $240,000. So they each got to split $60 amongst them, and then their attorney's fees. So they walked away with maybe $40,000 each, which, in the grand scheme of things, which what it could have been, the clock was running on it. And the other thing too is really, that kind of strange. Whatever it actually happened, kind of better to put it behind the city rather than have us sit there and fester and have it hanging over like a and probably at the end of the day, paying out anyway, so you would have paid something out somewhere along the way, and it would have been just as much, if not more. So
negative press isn't good, and plus the city was having a lot of negative press at the time.
The city was having some issues.
Yeah, there's definitely some issues.
We had some shootings and stuff like that going on. There was a strong there's a spate of shootings going on throughout the Central Utica area at the time, and it was troubling. It was problematic. And then me coming in as a newcomer, I wasn't politically active before I got into office, and Hannah wasn't exactly forthcoming with what he said, basically, or what he would tell me about what's going on.
Were those the fire years?
No, that's previous. That was probably mid '90s, late '90s. Those were the fire years there when they had the arson problem, things like that, and the arson task force and all those things. That was late '90s.
Okay.
So that was, we had those issues at the time. So you go to that, and you go, fires or shootings. Which would you rather have? I mean, I guess as long as the houses are vacant. Yeah, well, neither would be great, but so we did have that, and I kind of had the issues at the time. We had some guys in the police department, and they were a little less than going above and beyond to try to go out there and solve these problems. And I remember there were some times where we'd get into a full-scale argument with people who've been on the department for 30 years plus, and they'd be like, "Oh, I know what I'm doing."
Entitled.
And I would literally walk up on them and say, this is basically bullshit. And there was one guy, and I was at I pulled up my car. There was a shooting at the gas station, which is over. It was torn down now. The old Nice and Easy that was on Court Street.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And there was a shooting there, and I rolled up, and by this time I was just furious because it was just not.
How old are you at the time, by the way?
34.
34. Wow. I mean, that's young.
Yeah.
Well, I always say this, and it's kind of strange. In Utica, it's young.
Yeah.
In Utica, 34 is young. I mean, most places, if you're 34 years old, you could be a multimillionaire, and you've gotten your money the hard way and stuff like that. But in Utica, it's like, you're so young yet. I had, I was married, I had a kid, the whole thing. It's really,
you're an adult.
You're an adult, yeah. I mean, you should be able to do this. It's not,
right.
and here's the deal. It's not rocket science. If you look at some of the people who provide these services to us through the government, it's not rocket science because they wouldn't be able to do it if it was. And, I'm not.
It's apparent that it's not rocket science,
it's
and not offense to you, but
glaringly
to
apparent.
What else is going on out there,
So when I rolled up on this guy, and it was a long-term police officer and stuff like that, and I pulled the window down my car, and he goes, "How you doing, Mr. Mayor?" I said, "We've got another shooting," and he goes, "Yeah," like that, and I look at him, I said, "Why the fuck is this funny to you? Why do you think this is funny? Do you think this is humorous that there's another shooting today?" I said, "On your watch?" I said, "If I were you, I'd be offended.
Right.
I'd be offended this is going on.
Yeah.
People disrespect you that much, they think they can get away with this." And he goes, "Well, I didn't mean anything by it." And, word got around pretty quickly that I was in a lot of places that most people weren't. I mean, I've always had my own business. I've always continued to run my own business. Even when I was mayor, I assisted my father and my family in running that business. So that meant everything from, being out and plowing snow at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, which is a great way to see if, the DPW was doing their job. If there was a fire, I always wanted to get the call. I'd show up at a fire no matter what time of the day or night. If there was any sort of fatal shootings, if there was any sort of fatal accidents, things like that. I mean, I always wanted to be there. I always wanted to see what was going on and find out what's happening. And I found myself in a lot of places.
Hands-on.
So, because of that, everyone kind of, I think, towed a little tighter line and decided that, he's going to show up. Can't have that, and we got to look like we're in charge of the scenes here. So, it makes it a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and it was kind of funny. And some of the people would show up, and there'd be one guy who was from the DPW, and he would always show up in my office on the slide. And he'd say, this guy's screwing around. This guy, he's robbing money, and this guy, he's taking time, and he's doing this, he's doing that, and. So I'm like, just listen to this guy going, okay, what's your angle? I just wanted you to be above board. Okay. So one night there's a motorcycle accident, a fatal motorcycle accident up on Genesee Street, and I went to that. And on the way home, I'm going down Genesee Street, and I see a dump truck from the DPW parked in front of a pizza place. So I said, that's odd. So I pull up, and I look, and I know what time their break was. I think their break was something like, 11:30 at night or 10:30, probably 11:30 at night. Mm-hmm. So I pull up, and it's it's about 11:15, and I park a fair distance away, shut the car off, and I wait. And after a little while, about 11:30 or so, some of the other DPW vehicles start to show up, and whether it's a loader or whether it's another dump truck or whatever, and guys get out and they go in there, and they have their break, and then within due process in a short order of time, they all come back out and they all get in their vehicles and they all take off, except the one truck that was there to begin with. And I'm looking at it going, who the hell is this? Does this break down or what? So I'm waiting a little while longer, and out walks a guy to get in the dump truck, and lo and behold, it's the guy who's blowing everybody into the DPW. And I said, son of a bitch, look at this guy. He's out here, So a couple days later, I didn't say anything about it, didn't do anything about it. A couple days later, I knew he was going to come back in. And he comes back in, he goes, I just wanted to, I was in the building. He goes, as long as I'm here, I still come. I said, I'm very disappointed with you. He goes, what do you mean you're disappointed with me? I said, I know what you did. I said, and you know what you did, so think about it before you come in and talk about everybody else. And I turned around and went back in my office. Well, he literally literally started crying. What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't get it. I don't get it. What happened? What happened? I said, you're a big disappointment. You know that? I said, you talk about everybody else, but you're the worst offender of the bunch, aren't you? And so from that point on, he stopped coming in and telling me things. And I also made sure his supervisors knew that this guy was the biggest offender out of all of them, and then whatever they had to do to take care of it. So, yeah. Well, basically. So.
Well, there's a lot of people getting thrown under the bus in politics. I feel like that's
everywhere, though.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's the biggest backstabbing job that there is.
It's a horrible job.
It is.
It's a horrible job, you know, and honestly, I looked at it this way. I mean, here's the thing. I didn't need a job after that. I mean, I have, a familial business that I was able to step back into no matter what happened, no matter when I left, no matter when I won, lost, indifferent, whatever.
You will always be okay.
I'm always going to be okay.
Yeah, good.
Because I can actually make a living outside of that scope of that realm. There are people in that business right now who represent us who've never had a private sector job. Never had a private sector. Never in their life have they ever worried about making a health insurance payment. Never in their life have they worried about what am I going to do in retirement. Never had to worry about any of those things because they were taken care of from the time they were 17, 18 years old right on through to now that they're in their late 60s. And it's absolutely terrible because when they say, like you've heard lately, this will only mean $17 a week to the average homeowner, or $17 a month to the average homeowner, or $23 a year extra to the average homeowner. These are all people who don't give a shit.
Right.
I mean, when the county executive, for example, right now comes out and says,
I want a raise.
There's a 0% tax increase in the county. But all of a sudden, you're a Utica taxpayer, and your taxes increase almost 10% county for the county taxes, not for just the city taxes, but for the county taxes. And they say, well, that's due to the equalization rate and this issue. Well, you just said there's a 0% tax increase. So you should have said there's a 0% tax increase for some communities, not for all. And figure out why the problem is. And they're taking properties off the tax rolls and putting pilot programs on them to spur people to buy these things. But, nonetheless, it's all money.
Not to mention they give themselves a raise.
And they give us not only a raise, but a $26,000 raise. Right. When you think about that, now the county executive gets a $26,000 raise. And one of the things someone told me is they said, well, his chief of staff, it's an appointed position, makes $121,000 a year. So he was making less than his chief of staff. That's your problem. You're the one who set the tone and set the payment for him to begin with.
And they shouldn't be making that much money. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
They're getting more of a raise than some people's yearly income.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly right. The raise itself is more than the average Utican makes.
Right.
So when you think about that, and then they turn around and they say, oh, geez, you got to pay us $1,000. Well, guess what? They made more than $1,000 just from their raise. They made more than $2,000 just for their raise. So it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to them. And when you think about it, not only does that raise that, but it's also a raise in health insurance. Health insurance went up across the board for everybody this year.
Yep.
They don't think about it because they don't pay it. It's already paid for them. And the other thing is, they always say, well, the county controller is underpaid. And here's something that your head's going to explode when I tell you this, because most people don't realize this. If you die tomorrow, say you're a multimillionaire, say you got like $5 million, but no family or something like that. So you never, you're a little eccentric, so you never made a will. If you die tomorrow in Oneida County, the Oneida County controller settles your estate, becomes your executor of your estate by virtue of law, and gets a percentage of your estate personally. So Joe Timpano, Oneida County Controller, if you die, say you got a $5 million estate, no will, he's the executor, I think he gets 10%. So he walks away with $500,000.
Wow.
Personally. Wow. Doesn't go back into the county coffers, which by all means I would think it should.
Does this happen often?
How many people die without, even if they die, say they got an estate worth $20,000. I mean, if you're getting 10%, that's still
$2,000.
$2,000.
Yeah.
And how many people are dying without a will? Probably plenty.
Wow.
And that's something you don't think about.
Why does it go to him personally, though?
I can't answer.
How can that
question.
be legal?
I don't know.
So
I don't know.
And this is public knowledge too, obviously, right?
Well, it's reasonably public.
Is this
knowledge.
like
Not
for everywhere, or is this just local?
I'm not sure.
It's just.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
that's insane.
And there's been some years when he has had a good hit on a pretty. I think one estate he settled for somebody was like $3 million.
Wow.
And that's
10% of $3 million.
It's real money.
Yeah.
And so to sit there and listen to someone complain about only making $70,000 a year when that's out there as a carrot for you.
And that just go right in the pocket.
Right to
that
him.
should go back into like
the county coffers.
Whatever. Yeah, like some kind of city deed.
He's obviously taxed on that, right?
Town deed.
I would hope so. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's an estate tax, so I mean, yeah. I mean, it's all
Is it, so they 10% after the tax?
That is so
or,
goddamn
is he
shady.
taxed again
Usually,
as his income.
It should be taxed as his income. That I don't know. It's a good question, actually.
You know, because like I know the initial sale.
I'll still pay the tax on $300,000 if you want to give it to me.
Yeah, all day.
Well, that's what I'm wondering though. If
all day.
If he's getting this like after they pay the tax on the sale and he's getting 10% free, or if he's paying a tax on
free money
as an income too.
You know,
what I mean? How much are we?
One would think that I think the estate tax is somewhere around $5.5 million. Anything underneath that is tax exempt. Anything handed down, I don't know if him being executor is taxable as an income or not. So I think that would be the question that you'd have.
This has been in effect forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever.
For as long as I remember. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But never talks about it.
No, of course not. Who's going to talk about it?
No.
They're probably praying every day. People. Well, obviously people die, but like. How much is he worth?
Yeah.
Does he have a will?
Can we hide it?
Yeah.
Is there a way we can hide that will?
They're on the way to shut us down now.
Yeah, no doubt. Right? Yeah.
County health department's outside the door.
Yeah, we just blew them.
Don't worry, they're scared to come into Cornhill.
That's good. One for Tim.
So, other than that, what else going on?
Oh, man. Well, I want to talk a little bit about Hannah, too. Was he that just nuts?
Oh, it's crazy.
He was just crazy.
Yeah, he's crazy.
But he was a good businessman, though, right? Or
well, no? I don't know. I mean, I didn't see the business part of him. I mean, here's the thing. People say, well, he was a great guy. He never took his salary. Lie. He took his salary.
Yeah.
He took the pay. He took the whole thing. He took the health insurance. He stayed on the health insurance. After he left, he paid the Cobra, yes. But, I mean, these are the things that people – he paid for all the flowers himself. Lie. He didn't pay for all the flowers himself.
And all he did was put him down Genesee Street. Like, he didn't give a shit about any of that part of the city except for Genesee Street.
Genesee Street looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times when he would say, there was an interesting story. There was a woman, when he was fighting with the OD, which was pretty much all the time.
Every day.
There was a woman who came in who worked upstairs, and he hated this woman. This is a bigger framed woman, let's say. And he used to just call her fat. You're just some big fat know-it-all, and you think you're this, and you think you're that. And he'd call her all these names. And she couldn't stand him, and he couldn't stand her. Well, one day he was arguing with her, and or he was arguing with the paper, and she came in and she said, she goes, you and I have had our differences, but what you say about the paper is absolutely true. And he said, you know what, God damn it, you're a lot smarter than I ever gave you credit for. You know what, because she agreed with him. She goes, you're a lot smarter than I ever gave you credit for. You know what, you're a good person. You're a good person. I feel sorry for the way I treat you. You know what, give yourself a $10,000 raise. And she had the wherewithal to run upstairs where civil service was and say, the mayor just said, give me a $10,000 raise.
Wow.
So civil service called down to him and said, did you just say give her a $10,000? They said, yes, give her a $10,000 raise, goddammit. They go, okay. Now, the interesting thing about that is that everything is civil service in the city. So basically, if you have a position, it's a civil service position. Whatever that classification is, whatever that title is, that's a title, has a classification with it. It has a level that you're at.
Yeah.
If you give her a $10,000 raise, you're basically raising the salary of that position $10,000 for that title.
Right.
So everyone who has that title thereby gets that raise. So with just someone coming in and saying, hey, I agree with you about the paper, costs the city like $50K a year because there's like five people in that title. So when you think about stupid stuff like that,
yeah,
absolutely asinine.
It's very... I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, but it seems very Trump-like.
I was just going to ask, is there comparisons between Ed Hanna and Trump?
Well, Trump seems to gravitate and is actually pretty good at the social media and the technology part of it. Good, bad, or indifferent. He's good at that.
Get off Twitter.
Hanna didn't have a computer in his office.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine if Hanna had Twitter?
No. No, I can't.
He had no filter to begin with, right?
But he didn't have a computer in his office because there was like literally 2 internet connections in all of City Hall in 2000 because he heard that if someone had a computer with an internet connection, someone could go in and steal your information or manipulate your data or manipulate your words. And so for that, he said, that's it. No computer connection. I mean, one of the first things I did was make sure the city actually had some sort of a website presence because we didn't have one before that.
Yeah.
And actually people had emails and started buying more computers and things like that and having emails, which really we were well behind the 8 ball on that. With that, he didn't like that. And one of the things that were kind of funny, whenever he put out a press release, he would type these things up on letterhead and then he'd think of something else and he'd type it up and he would actually cut out the words with a pair of scissors off a piece of paper and lay them on the paper and put a piece of clear tape on it. So if you look at some of his older press releases, which someone in this room might happen to have some, where he would fax it through, you'd see like where the piece of tape and there'd be like the words would be crooked this way and stuff like that. So
like a ransom note, you know.
It was absolutely like a ransom note. It was absolutely crazy. And you know, I mean, when the day he retired or he resigned was absolutely bizarre because he called. I was cutting my lawn up in North Utica. I mean, I had a house in North Utica. I've had it for a long time, and I was cutting the lawn up there. And all of a sudden, my phone rings, and I pick up the phone. I said, "Hello," and he goes, "Tim, this is that Hannah." I'm like, "Oh, hey, Mayor, how are you?" He's like, "Good. Listen, I gotta talk to you. Why don't you come by the house about 11 o'clock?" I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Your house at 11? Yep, come by the house at 11 o'clock." I said, "All right, great." So
It's funny, after all these years, you still got his voice down.
It haunts me in my sleep. So I go to his house, and he's sitting there on the couch, and he's got, he goes, "Listen, there's a lot of things that when I think about doing, I think about, I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire, but, I'm taking a lot of medicine. And, my health's not good. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to, maybe I'll leave for 10 days, and you can be acting mayor for 10 days. We'll see how you like it. And then, we'll see what happens, and then we'll see what goes on." I said, "Oh, all right, if that's what you need me to do." I mean, that's what when I ran for this office, this is kind of one of the things I just, signed up for. So I didn't think it was going to happen, but I said, "Okay, that's fine." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Here's the press release I'm going to send out." And the press release is saying, "Due to my medical conditions, I going to take 10 days off. During that time, Julian's going to be the mayor, acting mayor, and here's a list of the meds I'm on." It was like this laundry list of meds that he was on. And I'm looking at it and go, "Oh, okay, well, obviously you've thought about it," and things like that. He goes, "Yep." And he sits there and he goes, "Or I might send this one out." And he sends the one across the table that says, "Effective midnight tonight, I resign." I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is really getting strange." So I go, "Oh."
Did he have his hand underneath the whole time?
No, he was sitting across from me, thank God. So so we're sitting there, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I just can't." And it was kind of bizarre about it because his wife was supposedly sleeping in the bedroom off the living room that we were sitting in. And every so often he'd jump up from the chair and he'd go over and he'd crack open the door a little bit. He'd say, "Are you okay, honey? Are you okay? Okay. All right." He'd shut the door and he'd come back over. "Yeah, a lot of good people around you. A lot of good people. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. Everything will be fine. I haven't decided what's going to happen yet." He goes, "If you don't hear from me by 10 o'clock tonight, just figure I quit." I said, "No." I said, "That's complete bullshit." I said, you have argued with the paper for the last 5 years.
30
years. I didn't want to go too deep on him there. So I said, "You are not going to let them know before I know." Yeah. I said, "I need to know first. So I need to know what's going on here." So he goes, "Oh, okay." So as I'm walking out his door, he walks me to the door, and I turn around and I said, "For whatever it's worth," I said, "I hope you stay." And he goes, "Very nice of you to say. Very nice of you to say." And as he's shutting the door, he goes, "But don't count on it." Click. And I was like, "Oh, shit." And at that time, it kind of struck me that, oh, shit, by midnight tonight, this is going to be laid on my lap here. So
were you aware of the accusations, too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was pretty apparent at the time. Yeah, okay. that was out there, and he was going to fight it and everything else. And it's kind of funny because when he started to shut people out right after the election, anyone who said anything contrary to his beliefs, like if I said, we should at least have the police blotter in the paper, you have no right to say something like that. No right. So he would shut me out also, and he completely shut down everything that was around there, and he would tell all the staff he couldn't talk to me. Couldn't talk to me. No one could talk to me. No one could have any interactions with me. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. So this is cool and normal. So I basically went. And one day I was walking into City Hall, and two of the lawyers were walking out, and they were walking over their car, and they went to lunch every day. So I followed them over the side parking lot, and they opened up their door, and I literally jumped in the back seat of their truck. I said, "All right, assholes, listen to me." I said, "I got to know what's going on." I said, "I got to know what's going on because this is my life we're talking about here." Right. I said, "I got to figure out shit before this goes on." I said, "Is he going to quit?" They go, "He's telling us he has no desire to quit. He's going to fight these charges. Says they're all fake." I said, "You're sure?" "Yes, we're sure. Right now, this is where it stands. If that changes, we'll let you know. We're not supposed to talk to you. Understand that?" I said, "I get that shit, but thank you for, So out I go, and then probably about 2 weeks before he resigned, he was in the halls and basically like, I don't know, it's almost like he was on ecstasy. He's like, oh, you're such a great guy. This is great. It could have been, why not? And I didn't check the list that close to see what the actual trade name of ecstasy is, but
he's on Molly.
And he's like, the controller. He's like, you're the goddamn good controller right here. She's a good lady. She's a good lady. And she's like, she hated him and he hated her. And I was like, oh, this is just bizarro land. So, 10 o'clock the night of July 3rd, it's like 10:05, and my phone rings at my house. And I answer the phone. I said, hello. And he goes, Tim, this is the mayor, Mayor Hanna. Come down to the office. I said, at City Hall? Yes, come down to the office at City Hall. So I'm going, oh, shit. So I drive down there, and I park in the parking garage. And one of his big tenets was he's saving the city money by turning all the lights off in City Hall at night. That was his big thing. Every light was off in City Hall. So City Hall was freaking pitch black. Now, those of you who know City Hall know there's an underground parking garage there. And I had a remote control for that. So I pull in the underground parking garage, pitch freaking black. And I said, I'm not going up these elevators. So I go up the stairs like I normally would, and they're pitch black. And I walk into his office, and he had an outer office, then he had where the two secretaries sat, then he had a conference room, then he had the inside office. And he had all these pictures on the outer office wall of him and like Bobby Vinton and him and Bob Hope and him and like some Shaw from somewhere or whatever. And as I'm walking in, I'm looking around, and all the stuff's down. All the stuff's down. I'm going, Jesus Christ. So I'm walking in, and I walk through the conference room, and he's sitting there. And one of the things, and it's going to be kind of funny to you, I'm sure, is he had 4 spotlights, can lights above the desk at City Hall. These 4 lights he had installed, and they were actually, when he was in office, they were red.
So he was under stage lights.
He was under stage lights. And the theory is that they made him look younger.
Oh, yeah?
The red light will make you look younger coming down on you.
And more evil.
And so as I'm walking in, those 4 red stage lights were replaced by 4 white lights. And I'm walking in, and I said, this guy looks old.
Like Mr. Burns.
And I get in there, and he goes, okay. He goes, well, here you go. Here's the key to the desk. Here's the key to the car. Here's the key to the door. You're going to do fine. You're going to do fine. He says, and I mean, holy shit. So
your head's got to be spinning.
And I hear in the background, he goes, send out the press release. And one of his staff at the time walks out of the back room with the press release in his hand, walks around me, throws it in the fax machine, types it up, boom, out the door it goes. And I was like, holy shit. Then another one of his loyal staff people comes flying in the office because he heard about it. He goes flying, he's going, Mayor. The guy must have run from like Pittsburgh. He's like, he goes, you can't resign. And he's going, well, he goes, I'm going to resign. Okay, I'm going to resign. He goes, I can't take it anymore. So I said to him, I go, look, I said, I hope you're resigning for yourself and for your own good, not just because of these accusations. Mm-hmm. And he looks at me, he goes, you know what? He looks towards the other guy, he goes, you know what? He goes, did you hear that? That's goddamn nice. Goddamn nice. He's worried about me, not himself like you are. Me he's worried about. So I was like, holy shit. So I go, okay, well, I'm going to go now. And I turned around.
Just drop him off at the Masonic home when you're done, please.
I turned around and I went home. And by the time I got home, I made picture of the old answering machines with a little digital readout on it and 2 tapes. And I had like 27 messages on my machine. I'm like, oh, Christ. And it started, and when, Bill Keeler, one of the first people who called, he goes, yeah, is this real? Is this,
that's pretty good.
Well, the people probably thought it was Bill sending out the resignation.
Well, yeah, right.
Because he'd done it before.
That's right.
And, so that was pretty interesting. And then, like, people literally, there's a picture of me. I was re-siding my house at the time. And so I took all the white aluminum siding off, and I had this green clapboard on the house. And I'm standing at 3 in the morning. My Nancy Ford, who lived down the street from me, was taking my picture on my front porch and interviewing with WKTV because they're all like, oh, we got to talk to somebody. But what's kind of fun is, like, the next day was the 4th of July. We had the 4th of July fireworks. That went off at the Parkway like it normally would. And I'm walking through the crowd. Nobody had any clue what was going on. No knew who I was, didn't care, didn't give a shit. Like, who's this asshole? I'm like, yeah, this is just exactly right. So, so I got to the next day I go to City Hall, and, they'd see me dressed kind of like I'm dressed right now. For those of you who can't see.
Oh, they could see.
Jeans and a T-shirt or whatever else. I'd go in and out of work that day. I would go to meetings in a suit. So I'm standing at the doorway of City Hall. I get there bright and early, and people are walking in and stuff like that. And they're like, I'm going to say, hey, good morning. How you doing today? And they're all like, Yeah, fine. Fine. And they're like, what's this asshole doing here in a suit, you know? And they get upstairs, they're like, he's what?
Wait, who's he again?
He's the what? What was his name?
It's the boss.
They didn't have Google back then. They couldn't Google
Oh,
you
yeah,
then.
yeah. And there was a lot of people who were away for the 4th of July weekend, didn't see a paper or anything else, you know?
Right.
So it was kind of just nuts, you know? And then they're coming in and they're realizing this shit's going on. And it was kind of nuts for me, too. So, and then, you know, I mean, I walk in the office and literally everything was cleaned out. There wasn't a paper in the office. There wasn't a pen in the drawer. There wasn't a freaking thing anywhere. And, I mean, the phone just started ringing. Everybody who wanted something, needed something, you know, and it's kind of cool. You get a call from the governor. You get a call from other mayors throughout the state, your senators, your, you know, people like, oh, anything we do to help you? Of course, that was the last time I heard from him. It was Pataki. Governor Pataki at the time, yeah. So, I mean, you know, we had a relatively good relationship with Pataki. So, I mean, that worked out pretty well for us and for the city. And you know, we go forward from that. But, yeah, it was funny because actually Boilermaker Sunday was that week.
Oh, wow.
So I'm trying to get the city set up, and you know, and the DPW pretty much was laying down. Like, oh yeah, time to go to the races. So I did a lot of stuff on my own truck, going out and cleaning stuff up places and throwing it in the back of my truck and chasing the DPW around to make stuff happen. And I was exhausted. I remember I showed up to the Boilermaker line, and Bob Ingalls, who was running the race at the time, has passed away since then. Great guy. He said to me, he goes, we've never had the mayor of Utica welcome people to the Boilermaker race before.
Really?
I said, really? He goes, well, he goes, LaPola would want him, and Hannah didn't want him. You know, he goes, you want to do it? I said, oh, shit, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So he goes, all right. He goes, well, be up at the podium at the start of the race before like 7:45, and just get up there. And he goes and come up and you can welcome everyone to Utica. I said, oh, that's awesome. So I'm you know, the city looked pretty good, and everything went off without a hitch. It was a beautiful day, and I got walking through there, and I'm like, this is cool. I'm walking up toward the podium. You can see the scaffolding and shit like that, and all the people are milling about, and it's like 7:45, and I'm walking over, and all of a sudden there's a hand in my chest, and they go, that number, you're back there. And I went like, I looked at my number, and I was in the corral behind me, you know, and I'm like, oh, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm supposed to be up there. She goes, yeah, you and about 100 other people. She goes, so just go back to where you're supposed to be. That's where you belong. And there's this woman who's, you know, one of the race guards or whatever. And
Did you have a badge?
She had a vest, which is just as good as a badge.
No, I mean, did you have a badge?
No, I didn't have a badge at the time. No, I actually got one later on, but I didn't have one at the time. I didn't have nothing. I mean, I had my running stuff on. I was getting ready to run the race. And so I'm like, geez, I said, you know, I'm supposed to be up there. And she goes, yeah. She goes, I heard you say you're supposed to be up there, and you're not. You're supposed to be back there. And at the time, I was kind of like a little strange. It was new to me, you know. And I'm like, listen, I go, I'm the mayor.
You couldn't pull it. You know who the hell I am?
And she goes, she goes, hey, she turns to her friend who had her back to the whole situation. She goes, he says he's the mayor. And her friend literally turns around and goes like this, looks at me and goes, and she turns around and starts to laugh and waves the whole thing off like this. And I went, oh, shit. How am I going to get up there? So I'm yelling. I'm like, Bob. And they can't hear you. I mean, it was probably like 100 yards away from me.
There's 20,000 people.
20,000 people there and all the other ambient noises. Like, oh, no way. So I'm standing there. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm thinking, am I going to make a run for it? I mean, just leap over the snow fence and make a run for it? And so finally she looks at me. She goes, oh, for God's sake, if you got to get up there that bad, just go. And I said, thank you. And I literally ran up to the podium. I get there. I said, hey. He goes, oh, yeah, come on up. So I get up to the thing.
Oh, yeah, you're the mayor. That's right.
And I walk up on there, and I'm like, hey, welcome to the city of Utica, greatest 15K in the country. I'm buying the beer at the end. Get there. All right, cool. You know, as I jumped down, and I thought the only right thing to do is to go back to where I actually should have been. Instead of jumping in at the front, like where I would have been with the Kenyans and people who would run all over me. Yeah. I said, let me go back to where I'm supposed to be.
That woman from England.
So there's always that woman from England. I hate her. So I walk back, and I'm walking back, and these two women are standing there. And they look at me, and they're like, we're so sorry. I said, listen, you had a job to do, and you did it well. Yeah. I said, so I have no complaints. They said, but just remember me next year, okay? She goes, they started to laugh, and actually I saw them not that long ago, and they go, you remember me? And I said, no, I really don't. She goes, I stopped you walking to the boiler. I said, oh, that was you? I said, oh my God. Then we got a good laugh out of it. So started the race, and that was the first of 8 Boilermakers as mayor of the city of Utica, which has not been duplicated even once.
And the Boilermaker, man, it's
the biggest thing going.
It really is. It
is.
puts us on the map every year.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I remember the year.
Do you still run it?
Yeah.
Do you?
I've got 27 in a row going, so I got a streak going.
Don't streak while you're doing it. You're getting a lot of trouble. Trust me, that's something I know about.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. And, it was the year Pataki was running for re-election. We talked him into coming in and running the race, or coming in and being at the end of the race. He's like, well, all right, I'll try to get there and everything else. He didn't realize the scope of it. And he was riding with the then Senator Ray Meyer, and Meyer said to me how he turned to him and said, he goes, you said this is the biggest 15K in the country? He goes, don't you mean the state? And Meyer said to me, he goes, probably the world. Probably the world. And he goes, huh. He goes, I don't know. He goes, well, we got to get to that church by 11 o'clock. And Ray goes, all right, whatever, we'll get you wherever you got to be. So they had Pataki hold the finish banner for the winner as he came running through, which, guy comes running through, and he's like watching, and you know how it is. I mean, you've been on seeing the finish line.
Yeah.
And it starts out kind of like, sporadic, and then it's just
mayhem,
a storm coming over that line. And Pataki was just beside himself. Just like, oh, this is fantastic. This is, stayed around afterward, was up on the stage, called me up on the stage. There's your mayor. He ran it with you, and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It was a good day for Utica. It's always a a good day for Utica, no matter what. So
it is. It puts us on the map.
It does. It
makes us known.
Do you remember when Hannah was on 60 Minutes?
Oh, yeah.
For the Marilyn Manson. Wasn't that the one?
No, he was on 60 Minutes just because.
There was one where he was protesting Marilyn Manson. He got live coverage for.
He did protest Marilyn Manson.
But there was
that was in '96.
And what was
but when CBS came to town, like '98 or '99,
yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it was when he just.
I was gonna play that, but I have technical difficulties. I wanted to play that actually, just a little segment of it.
And did we mention he's the mayor?
Yeah, right.
I actually tried to get them to come back and do a follow-up story and say that okay, things have returned. Some normalcy has returned here.
Well, if you watch that video today. And look at all the changes that has gone on since then.
Downtown looks completely
different. Unbelievable.
Because he's running through the parking lot next to Hotel Utica, which is basically a barren wasteland right now.
Yeah,
or at the time.
At the time.
Now it certainly is it looks great down there.
And the landmark building and all
that stuff.
Tom checked in. He wants to know if the rumors are true about the disco room in his house.
In your house?
Never got that far in the house. Got to the living room from the front door. That was it.
I heard that too.
My house, on the other hand.
I think that he meant his house. I don't think he meant. I don't think he meant Hannah's house.
Oh man, I wish I had a disco room. Like they had Steve Martin in The Jerk.
Yeah. I love that movie.
That's a classic.
Why are they shooting the cans?
That's not me. They want it's these cans.
But there's been a lot of positive changes in Utica.
There's been some tremendous changes in the city. Absolutely, there has. I mean, and a lot of it is perception too. People have to have the perception that
and the positive thinking.
The positive thinking, yeah, and that comes from a younger generation. One person said to me one time, and it was probably the best compliment I ever got. And he was an older guy, not older, but probably like 10 years older than me. And he looked at me, he goes, and he was friends with my successor. He was friends with Dave Raffaello when he came in, and he said to me, he goes, I really miss you being there. He goes,
I missed you too.
Referral will make you do that.
He goes, you made the city feel young again.
You cared.
Well, you know what it was, honestly, and look, I mean, you were a huge part of Varick Street. Z and Varick Street.
Z's been on Varick Street?
We're synonymous. I mean, electric company. When people talk about Varick Street today and they say, oh, Varick Street, it's this, it's that, whatever it is, if you haven't stood at the electric company with the UC can in your hand, listening to Hank and Cupcakes or any of the other bands you brought in there, you don't know Varick Street. Because that was the heyday of Varick. And
amen, brother.
Amen. When you look at it and you look at some of the
look at all the hearts you're getting on Facebook right now.
I mean that was crazy, and it was fun, and it was real, and it was this dirty little secret we had.
It was definitely dirty.
It was so cool. And when you think about it and the changes that we've seen there, and there were so many things that I looked at, if we given the opportunity, we could have done a little bit better, a little bit differently. And going down there now, even on Thursdays, it's not something that people are passionate about anymore. It's a money grab. Everyone's down there trying to make the buck, and I can appreciate that. And it's there. Of course. I mean, certainly people got to make a buck, and I'm not gonna.
It's commerce in the city.
I'm not gonna hate on anybody, but guys like Steve Klosik who've been down there forever,
30+ years,
forever. Yeah. Who's put his blood, soul, and tears. I mean,
He has.
when he opened up Stiefvater and then Sickenberger, that blew Varick Street up.
It did.
It blew Varick Street up, and it was great.
I agree 100%.
I mean, that was great. You had both ends covered, and, Talgo coming in and doing his and I still remember when that apartment fire happened across the street. Chris Talgo's sitting on his front porch, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at him, and it's like 3 a.m. You're watching this building burn. I said, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Because
Everybody was excited.
This place is a dump.
Yeah. No, seriously, it was.
I know. It was
everybody was celebrating that day.
It was harassment central for anyone walking down on a Thursday night past that building. You got your balls broken.
Yeah.
And it was,
Bunch
to
of
see that
vagrants.
building go down, I was like, this is, and I knew one thing we had to do, and we set about doing it the next day. We had to acquire that property at all costs. We could not let this half-wit say he was going to rebuild it, start over again, go from scratch. None of those things. That building had to come down. And obviously new structure there now. It's all enhancement. But I guess when the arterial project was built, what should have been done is we should have looked at a lot more of those side streets coming behind Varick to the east and taken down some of those properties there for some parking.
Definitely needs
That's what's lacking.
Create that back street parking, because sooner or later, the owner of the mill may say, you know what, I'm not going to let you park here anymore, and put a barrier up and say, no more parking here. Then you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be in big trouble. And I mean, there's kind of always that love-hate thing with the brewery too. I mean, the brewery wants a piece of the action, and they get their due. I mean, they get their due.
I love the brewery.
They get their they get their due there with the Saranac things. I mean, to have a bar being in conflict with the bars, I mean, this is your product that they should be pushing. And the flip side is, I mean, the people down there should be pushing the product.
And you see it so much more now. I remember years ago, like, you would never see UC in a bar.
Oh yeah,
even local bars, you like never see it, and now you see it everywhere, and people are buying it like crazy. So.
I will go so far to say that Varick Street caused the resurgence in UC.
I would definitely agree.
I would say that was the biggest
the
push,
Saranac Thursday.
The biggest push behind UC becoming this popular brand again was Varick Street.
And hats off to like Nagel guys like who designed the younger clothing and stuff like that to kind of bring back to the younger pop culture.
I remember going down there and you see these guys and stuff, and they'd say, "Oh shit, it's the mayor. What's going on?" Nothing. I'd say, "Can I buy you a beer?" I'd say, "Let me buy you a beer." And they said, "Oh, okay, great." And I said, "What do you want?" And they said, "Oh, give me a Coors Light." And I'd say, "Nope." You're not drinking a Coors Light on Varick Street, pal. Not with me. I'd say, here, try UC. You never had it. Never had it.
I get that from people all the time. That stuff's garbage. Have you tried it?
Try it again for the first time.
Right.
Drink it out of I always tell people, drink it first out of a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Nice cold bottle.
Oh, yeah. No,
That's what I have UC.
Great. It's a great beer.
Well, Tim, that was the cool thing about you, though. You were on Varick Street hanging out.
Puking in the back alley.
I wasn't going to say it.
Was there a Monte Carlo?
I wasn't going to say it. But but you were out and about though. You were, and people like seeing that. Like you don't get that with mayors these days.
And that's what I said like yesterday. Like you and Griffo seemed to like have a decent relationship, back then. And it was great because like you guys were both younger, and like you would see Griffo out at places, and like. And I always felt like Roman.
You gotta try to find out. You gotta go party somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy. It's crazy. This is where it gets nuts. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what we gotta do? We gotta be very. You gotta look at things the right way, because it just gets nuts.
Yeah.
We'll put a committee together, and the committee will look at it, and then we'll stare at it for a while, and then it's crazy.
All right, let's go have a couple beers.
yeah, really. We'll get together. You could call me. Really, we'll party sometime. It's great.
But are you out and about now, though? Do you still hang out, go to Comets games or anything like that?
I do that. I'm obviously a little less, a little more low key. But certainly, the Comets is, this next wave of insurgents that's come into the city that's created this.
The Comets started that.
The Comets started that.
Yeah.
I mean that
they
made
brought the whole
happen.
sense of pride back a little bit.
It did, and hats off to Ash, and way back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, when I was talking to Rob. I mean, the one thing that he was always pretty adamant about was that he wanted to bring a hockey team back to the area. He wanted to bring an AHL team back, and it was going to be the Utica whatever. And I'd say, he said, you're going to hit a lot of pressure to call it the Mohawk Valley or go the Utica County or the whatever. He'd say, no, it's got to be Utica. Got to be Utica. He was adamant about that. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that because, through the years, it's kind of funny that we've one of my biggest bitches was that everything became the Mohawk Valley. Mm-hmm. And my complaint about that is find the Mohawk Valley on the map. You You can't.
Or CNY.
CNY, and
So vague,
Syracuse is kind of CNY. Syracuse is
So
is
is
kind
Albany.
of the central New York is that's always been Syracuse, and but for us, I always thought it should be the greater Utica area. Period.
Just Utica.
Or Utica.
Just Utica.
Yeah,
in
then they get
general.
people in Rome to get all like
But okay, but they, Rome's got their own stuff going on, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the get bent out of shape. But I mean, the reality is Utica's the county seat. We have to be the caretaker of the problems. We should also be able to get some of the notoriety too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we should
absolutely.
get some of the bets out of it. You know what I mean? Because there is a opportunity there for some of the hardship cases that we take care of here in Utica to go other places. And they don't. They stay here in Utica, and we maintain that population, whether it be through extra service through our fire department, police department, things like that. And our school district takes a big hit for it too.
Yeah.
And without the city of Utica, the other areas wouldn't be doing as well as they are. And so it's
fact.
And people don't see it that way. They see it. Oh, Utica, they got all these dregs. And there are still people who are scared to be in. There's people who live in New Hartford right now who've never stepped foot in Utica. And it's crazy to think about that. If they walked onto Varick Street, they would be scared out of their wits.
Oh, I hear that a lot, actually.
Scared out of their wits.
I work on Varick Street still.
I mean, have you been to some of these New Hartford bars on a Friday night? Whew. I mean, wow. Not going to name names.
I've worked there, too.
Not going to name names, Tom. So, so it's but I think, the Varick Street thing, that had started. I mean, Saranac started a short time before I got in office. And, and I was there for the 10th anniversary of Saranac when the fire started.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
You believe that?
I don't think. No, it was. So it was. And it's crazy.
I want to do a segment on that one day. Thanks for that reminder.
Fire.
Yeah, that whole fire.
That was.
I remember hearing about that. I had my store at the time.
I remember that day.
Yep.
Perfectly, actually.
Yeah. I remember sitting. I was actually talking to Fire Chief Brooks in the tavern, the 1888 tavern. We're talking about this, and they go, "Oh, folks, don't be alarmed. There's a little fire over here. We just, we're going to get under control." And next thing you know,
it's a big fire.
It was not under control.
One of my buddies lived right behind the electric company. He had to be evacuated.
We all had to evacuate.
Oh, yeah,
we all went up to 12 North, and all the bar owners got together, and we all went to 12 North and got hammered.
I was at Dick Smith's trying to consume as much Utica Club as was possible.
Yep.
That was.
But yeah, that was. I mean, that was kind of frightening.
But without that fire, though, they wouldn't have had the facility that they got now.
Oh yeah, no, they've certainly come back stronger and better than ever. And what's also fun about the brewery, one of the things that are awesome, is that when you're and I see this when I was mayor, I was backstage at the Boilermaker, and you're in the shipping room where they're getting everything ready and they have it palletized and ready to go. The different brands that they're bottling out of there is nuts.
Oh, yeah.
It's just absolutely. I remember as a kid,
name brand bottles, too.
Name brand stuff. I mean, high end stuff. And what's fun is like when I was 18, 19 years old, I would hang out at a bar called Donnelly's on the corner of Oneida and Grant Street. And Donnelly's was a couple guys who I went to high school with. Their brother owned it. They were bartending there, and they would have New Amsterdam beer there. And New Amsterdam was brewed by the brewery, shipped only to New York City. But they always got some of it back up here for some way or another. And that bar had it, and it was so good. And that was, again, brewed right here at the brewery.
What was it called?
New Amsterdam.
They still make it anymore, or is it?
I don't know if they make it anymore or not. But what was also kind of cool is that, and I always, whenever I would see Nick Matt, I would always give him some suggestions, which, he seldom took. I guess he knows more about beer than I know, which I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that happened was Rheingold, which was initially out of New York City, started brewing again or started up again, Rheingold beer. And you may remember it, may not remember. It was a red and white can. And at the time, it was a big thing that this was starting up in New York City again because there's a resurgence of some sort of a manufacturing in New York City. And Bloomberg was the mayor, and they had a story in the New York Post about how one of the reporters came up and said, "What do you think about Rheingold starting up again in New York City?" And their new phrase, "This is not your father's Rheingold beer." And said Bloomberg turned to him and said, "Really, Rheingold?" He goes, "Well, my father's Rheingold beer closed down and put X number of workers out of work without telling them and caused a lot of hardship to a lot of families. So don't tell me about Rheingold beer." And he took and he put it up to. They said, as he looked away, he put a Coors Light up to his lips and took a sip from it. And I said, when I found out this was Rheingold was actually being brewed up here and shipped down there before they had their assembly plant going, I said, "You know what you ought to do?" I said, "You ought to send a case of everything you make to Bloomberg's office in New York City and say, this may not be your father's Rheingold, but it's brewed right here in New York State, unlike Coors. You should try some of this. And by the way, here's everything else we make here in New York State as well.
Did they?
I don't think they ever did. I don't think they ever did.
Bloomberg probably would have been happy.
I
would have been.
I would have been ecstatic. But I always think stuff like that is kind of cool. I mean, you got to, and honestly, I mean, the product giveaways. How are you? The product giveaways are, something that you do and make sure stuff happens. And there was a show on one of the channels one time where they had a guy who does classic cars, and I noticed on his shelf, he's out in Massachusetts, somewhere in Connecticut. On his shelf, he had a whole array of Colonite waxes. So this guy is using Colonite wax, which is manufactured right over here on Lincoln Ave. And, I said, geez, you guys ought to send a case of out there, say, with our compliments, thanks for the product placement, which he didn't realize he was doing, but thanks for the product placement. So it's kind of cool. I mean, when you see the stuff that's manufactured right here in these different spots all over the country, and you see them popping up different places, it's neat.
Did you ever make a mayor bet with another mayor? You know how some of those mayors do sports like competitions or something like that?
Yeah, we did a bet. I did a bet with Griffo one time.
Did you?
Something.
Who could sell more crack?
Wow.
I'm kidding. I mean, what city?
He's not Marion Barry. I mean,
what city could sell more crack? Not what person can.
Chicago or Toronto?
What did Chris Rock say there? I was like, who even sells crack? What am I gonna do with all this crack? But no, I can't remember what it was about. It was something. I'm not even sure what, but. Yeah, so we had those bets back and forth, but whenever when you think about it, the Blue Sox were kind of gone.
Yeah.
When I was in office, and they had these the other college teams and the smaller teams and things like that, and I think with the success of the Comets, I think you'll see an opportunity maybe now to bring in another A team. But you got the
baseball
Mets.
Team,
yeah,
which would be great.
You got the Mets out in Syracuse though too, which is nice. Their farm club out there now
huge.
too,
That's
which is great.
Huge. That's going to sell a lot of tickets for them.
Yeah. So you got that. Then the flip side is that so I didn't have that. The hockey team I had UC hockey.
Yeah.
And UC hockey was that showed that you could fill the odd with hockey no matter what. That showed that you could fill the odd with hockey. And my biggest concern was always that if we brought in a pro team, what would happen with the UC team, because they made sure stuff happened. And it's kind of funny through the years there was these desperate attempts to bring in these other players. There's other teams, I should say, that were less than an AHL level team, and we had the Prowlers and we had the Blizzard, the Bulldogs, and they just kept denigrating every layer of hockey. I think we were like just one step above Pee Wee with the last league.
The one owner would just walk away. He's like, "I'm done with this. I'm out."
I remember him watching the teddy bear toss one night, and it's like there's like a minute left on the clock, and we hadn't scored yet, and everyone's standing there with these bears in their hand. They're like, "Okay, the goalie's going to either give up a shutout on purpose." Or we're going to bring these bears to the next game. So I think at the end they dumped one in, and they threw the bears on the ice or whatever. But it was kind of embarrassing that you couldn't score one goal to get the bears on the ice. So, but I remember at the time the county executive at the time, Ralph Yannis, called me up. He said, "Oh, because I got a guy. He wants to bring a pro hockey team in. We only got to come up with $300,000, and if you guys come up with $150, we'll come up with $150." I'm like, "I don't got $150 for that." I said, "What do you mean? It's your building." Because at the time was the county's building. Really, I said, I can't. I said, "Who even is this guy?" "He's for real. He's a car dealer. He's downstate. He's got all these car dealerships. He's got all these things going on."
That's huge.
I said, so, Yannis always would call me, and then he would call the press, and the press would call it. And they called me, and they said, "What do you think about the county executive saying he's got a new hockey team coming in the area?" I said, "As far as I'm concerned, we got one hockey team here right now." I said, "It's the Utica Pioneers. That's who plays at the odd. That's all I'm interested in." And that was it. So the guys that they were like, "Oh, he's behind us." So I actually, guys like Mexico and
Decker,
Sokol, and all those guys. I mean, they were like ecstatic that someone would actually stand up for them. And who are these guys? And, it was just starting out and things like that. So this was pretty cool for them. And interestingly, like a week later, that guys' car dealerships all got locked down by the IRS. I was like, wow. that
Go
happened.
figure.
That happened quick. so it's kind of, there's these things that happen, and these things that happen behind the scenes, and it's just, it's kind of bizarre. And if you weren't like actually living it, you wouldn't think that things like this actually happen. And you see some of these TV shows that talk about government, and they're so bizarre, and you think, "Oh, that could never happen." Guess what? It does.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Like House of Cards or something like that?
It's not even so much that, like almost like Parks and Rec. it's just funny stuff, There was the one guy who worked for the county executive one time. He comes rushing into my office. He goes, "Hey," the county executive's got a guy who wants to put a restaurant on a barge on the harbor. And I went, oh, what? He goes, a restaurant. He's got a restaurant barge. It's down in Albany right now. He's going to bring it up along the canal, and we're going to put it at the harbor. I said, Harbor Point. He goes, yeah. I said, you realize that's polluted, right? He goes, that water's not polluted. DEC says you can eat a fish out of there as long as you don't eat more than one a week. And I thought of this saying, and I look at him and said, do you want to eat that one fish a week? And he just looks at me, he goes, no, I don't want to. He just starts thinking, no, I don't want to eat the fish. I said, I'm not going to eat the fish either. I said, nobody's going to pay to sit on a rusty boat in a polluted harbor to eat a meal. It's absolutely ridiculous. So,
but they are. Well, now they cleaned it up, right?
Yeah, you know what? Look, it is clean. DEC can clean up anything or get it speculated. I remember one of the comments they had was they go, well, there's some hard chemicals in there, and there's this issues coming up, and of course you got this chemical, and then there's arsenic. And I said, excuse, there's what? They looked at me and says, well, you have to understand there's a good arsenic and then there's a bad arsenic. What? I said, you know what? I said, I really never heard of the good arsenic. I said, so what is it, like good arsenic and old lace? I said, did they serve them the thing there? I said, come on. I said,
there's good arsenic.
As soon as you say arsenic,
right,
the conversation's going to end. No matter what.
There's nothing good about arsenic.
There's nothing good about arsenic that I could think of.
And with all the flashers down there on the trails down there, there's like dinner and a show.
Oh my God! But but there is. I mean, the canal trail is cool. I wish they'd continue.
I love the canal trail. I used to walk it daily. Literally, I'd walk every day 5 miles.
I used to actually. I had my mountain bike in my office at the city, and when I would have like a break for like an hour and 15 minutes, I would literally get on my bike and I would leave the office on the bike. Get on the elevator, go down to the first floor, go out through the. I'd be riding it out through the lobby. I'd cut straight down, go across into the area by the Odd, over the tracks, along the side of Genesee Street, and then hit the canal trail, down, back, and then come back to that. So I mean, just for something to do, just to get like the cobwebs out and just to actually get my sanity back.
Yeah.
And that was huge.
Good to get away.
Huh? Oh, it was huge for me to go out and be able to do that. And the canal trail was great.
Those trails, I love those trails, and I kind of wish that they would get rid of all the bullshit. The flashers and
stuff like that. But you got to give them a lot of credit because those guys are getting in there.
Yeah,
it's not an easy. Barns, they have closed. It's not easy to get in there anymore. So. Because they get their exercise too. I see them; they have their, they're completely naked, but they do have a Fitbit on, so they must be keeping track.
Yeah, but you don't want to know where they put it.
Keeping track of their steps. It's like, well, I'm naked, but I got 3,200 steps in today.
And they could check their blood pressure through their penis.
Good thing. Completely tan, except this white band around their wrist. I think we found them.
Hilarious. Tim, now's the part of the show where I really want to get a little bit up in a roar. And it's about these goddamn blue bags.
I got an answer. No. Go ahead.
First of all, why is the blue bag even a factor into the whole equation? Like, why do we have to buy these fucking blue bags?
All right. I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And it might make sense to you. It may not, but it might make sense. The blue bags are kind of like the equalizer.
Yeah.
Okay? The equalizer. Think of that. Not the guy who used to
TV
run
show?
the Jaguar and kill people. But they're the equalizer. Everybody, no matter where you go, whether you're in New Hartford, whether you're in Whitesboro, over there, you pay for your garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You pay for your garbage. You pay for the pickups. And like I talked to a lady from Whitesboro today who pays $240 a year for their garbage pickup. Which, okay, that sounds logical, reasonable, $240 a year to get the garbage pickup.
That's fine.
Okay. So if you were at a single-family homeowner, you're paying like $78. I think that just went up to like $89 or whatever it is. But say you're paying $79, so you pay $80 for that yearly fee. That is kind of like the overarching fee. What the blue bags does is if, say you, Z, have a house and you have a family of 10, and you are creating copious amounts of garbage, you should pay more than the little old lady next door to you who goes to Florida for 6 months out of the year, then comes back and creates a little bit of garbage every other week.
Mm-hmm.
So what the blue bag does is that equals out that payment from you having all the garbage and creating a large amount of garbage, and the little old lady who creates maybe a small bag every 2 weeks. So she's paying $1 every 2 weeks to throw out her garbage, whereas you are paying, say, $10 or $12 a week to throw out your garbage because you're creating this. If you have an apartment house, for example, obviously you pay more for the apartment house to begin with. If you have a multi-unit that's that's 3 units or more, you'll pay, I think, $258 a year on that, and commercial properties pay $258 a year as well. But if you're creating more garbage, you're getting more blue bags, so you're actually paying more of a price to dump your garbage. So if you had a private hauler, for example, like I have dumpsters where my business has dumpsters, and obviously if we create more garbage, you need either another dumpster, which they charge you for, or you get an additional pickup a week, which they also charge you for. So it's kind of like if it wouldn't say they said, okay, we're going to do away with the blue bags, and as such, no one's going to pay, but you're going to pay the one fee a year, but that fee has to go from $79 up to $240. Now, what you're doing is you are now creating a hardship for poor Mrs. Bernstein, who's only here for 6 months out of the year and creates a little bit of garbage, and you're creating more of a windfall for John Doe, who's got the apartment house, who's got a family of 10 or what have you. The other thing you got to worry about, too, is now with that free program, anyone can throw any sort of bags down here, what you're going to have is you have a lot of people from the suburbs who own properties in the city of Utica, a lot of absentee landlords, things like that. What they'll be doing now is they'll be coming down with their personal garbage and throwing it out here, which causes our fees to go up because they don't want to pay where they are. So now they're getting the free deal that they already pay for. And so it's not really free, but they would already be paying for it instead of them coming down from the other direction. So the blue bags, as much of a pain in the ass as they are, it's an imperfect system. The only other thing you could maybe do is charge like for a bin and have a larger bin. But on top of that, when you think about it,
and you still got to pay garbage tax too.
Well, you pay that yearly fee.
Right.
So, but with that, I mean, if you look at what we're able to throw out in the city of Utica, like if you lived in Whitesboro, for example, you had that one time a year you get to throw everything out.
Right.
And it sits on your lawn, and most of the time the scrappers
The
have gone through the
garbage
piles.
purge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like crazy, and it's unsightly.
And I hate when they bring it back. We've had that. Like they picked up my
scrappers?
garbage. Yeah, they picked up the garbage. They picked up like this dresser or whatever, and it was broken. And then they brought it back. I'm like, no refunds, dude.
That's it.
What the fuck?
I like to put stuff outside and just write, "Do not steal." And but we are able to every week throw out like a mattress, a box spring, 2 tires on the rims, unlimited recyclables, unlimited blue bags, a white good like a washer or a dryer or a refrigerator or a freezer or something like that. Plus 4 pails, or I think it's 1 cubic yard of C&D debris, which basically if you're doing a remodeling job in your house, you get to save money by doing that instead of having to get an actual dumpster. If you work out your garbage cans the right way, you can certainly get a lot of the debris that comes from doing a remodel job in your house. That goes to the curb. And then, like your green waste as well. So reality is we get to throw out a lot for that money. The blue bags, as offensive as they are, and they're a pain in the ass, especially when you go to the place you normally buy them and they're not there and the guy's sold out and they fall apart. Yeah, they could do a better job keeping them together, absolutely. But the big part about the blue bag is it actually equals out the payments for the people who it's considered like a pay-to-throw program is what it is. Is the more you throw out, the more you're going to pay, which is really the way it should be. It kind of should be.
Okay.
So anyway,
clear that up to me.
What were you going to say?
The problem that I have with them is the quality of the bags absolutely suck. And then they try to lie to us saying they haven't changed either manufacturers or the quality hasn't gotten poor. And it has.
Bullshit.
There's perforation around the ties. Why is there perforation around the top of the bag?
Those
it's
bags
the
used to be,
stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
They used to be heavy duty. You used to be able to pack shit right in there.
And then the Naughty County Waste System is trying to tell us, and I've left messages on their Facebook page. I did a video that went viral, and now every time somebody has a problem with their blue bag, they got to post a picture on my wall about it because I had that video go viral. I mean, now I've become synonymous with blue bags. Right. I've become synonymous with blue bags in the city of Utica. So everybody's like, hey, see, I got a blue bag for you. Anyways.
It's your Uptown Funk.
Yes, right. So these blue bags have gotten poor quality throughout the years, and they're trying to tell us that it's not the case, and it is. They're fucking lying to us.
No, I agree that they have to keep a consistency with the product they produce. They have to keep a consistency because people expect it. Right. And if you're going to charge the money for it, which people are seemingly willing to pay, then just keep the quality. And I think people would have a lot less concerns about the quality if the quality maintained some sort of a consistency throughout. That's with anything. The quality has to be the same. The UC you taste today has to be the same as the UC you tasted 10 years ago. I agree. Get to the consistency. Without the consistency, then there's not any of those other things.
Hey, if they got a bad batch of bags, admit it. Okay, you got a bad batch. Okay, it's understandable. It happens. Shit happens.
We tried a different
made in China.
We tried a different manufacturer. It has not worked out. We've addressed it with the manufacturer. The next one should be better. Come out and say it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right.
I agree. Own up to it.
Don't freaking lie to us.
Own it.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, like I said, you used to be able to pack those bags right in, and like tie them up and carry them out there like
no problem.
heavy duty, nothing. Yeah. Now they just break as soon as you go to tie it.
Yeah,
you could have nothing in there.
Tom Bosley's rolling in his grave right now.
Tom Bosley.
Yeah. The hefty bag, That's how they should be. A good quality bag like they used to be. They're not anymore. It's poor quality. I just don't like to be
No
lied
excuse
to.
for
That's
it.
all.
He's the guy from Charlie's Angels, right?
That's what fires me up.
Bosley?
No, it's Bosley was from Charlie's Angels, not Tom Bosley.
Tom
Bosley
Bosley.
from Happy Days.
Yeah, Mr. C.
Father had Mr.
Oh,
Yeah,
the glad bags? Or
the
Happy
glad
Tree or
bags.
whatever
Yeah,
it was?
see,
Yeah.
now you got it.
I'm Tom Bosley. Yeah.
Seriously, chicken, smoke more weed.
Got me on the Bosleys.
Oh, man.
Bless your
I
balls.
wasn't going Happy Days. I'm sorry.
But no, it pisses me off that whole situation, and these bags would rip, and like I said, people have always, since I did that video, everybody's like, "Hey, see, I got a blue bag for you." So that's what fires me up about it. But you put it in perspective for me, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And when did that come into effect, the blue bags?
That came into effect, I think, in mid-'90s.
Mid-'90s?
Yeah, mid-'90s.
Who's Lapola's watch or?
I think it was Lapola's watch, actually. Yeah, and that's when they changed everything from the city taking care of the garbage going to the Mohawk Herkimer or the Herkimer Oneida County Solid Waste Authority. So when they took over, and in all reality, they have kept the prices down for a long time. As far as everything being raised up, I mean, we're being raised, I think it's 15 cents on a blue bag.
Yeah.
That blue bag price has been the same for, I think, like 20 years. So that's actually pretty good. That's a pretty good run. I got to, and look, I got to give them credit because I've actually been to that site. I've been to the, I've had conversations with these guys. They actually know what they're doing, and I can't say that about every authority. Believe me, I can't say that. We'll talk about the water authority next.
Yeah,
but,
actually, I was going to bring up the water. You're on the list.
But they're on my list too. Trust me. So, but they actually seem to have it all together. They do happen to, they run a pretty good ship over there. They are pretty responsive, and I think the blue bag is something they have to address the quality of it. I don't think it's going away, and it just for some of those reasons that I stated there. And I think that's relatively fair. I think if you're going to throw out more garbage, you should have to pay a little bit more.
It makes sense. I go through. I probably fill a bag up like once every 2 weeks.
Right. So how would you like to pay the same price as Z?
Right.
Who'll be doing 4 bags a week?
A lot of garbage at my house. That's real.
Right.
So recycle those more.
Or like a full family, like a full family too.
And the other thing too is what it does do is it also encourages recycling, because if you said, I got a lot of cans, I got a lot of bottles. I mean, look at those soap containers and things like that. And that's what we'll talk about now, because of course I have the laundromat down here, and I used to be able to put those recyclables out on the street in a clear plastic bag, and they were able to take them. But once they went to single stream, the clear plastic bags screw up their machines. They get wrapped around some of the machinery there, so no longer will they take it like that. So now I'm ending up throwing out these recycling, these bottles that should be recycled, these soap bottles, which are, the volume is huge on them. I mean, those big 128 ounce, the gallon sized or 200 ounce size of these soap containers. I put them all in bags and just throw them in the dumpster. I could go down to the recycling center, but it's not always easy and convenient for me to do that. So I got some in the back of my truck right now if you want to go take a look.
When you pulled up, I'm like, that's got to be him.
Yes.
We're going to go load up the truck.
We got a couple cans back here to take for you.
Nice.
All right, Tim, I'm going to throw a name at you. I want the first thing that comes to your head.
Jesus.
Claudia Tenney.
A hard worker. I'm going to say that. She's a hard worker. Hard worker.
You being facetious right
now?
No,
I'm not being facetious. There is nobody who will work in that district harder than she will. Honestly, yes, I think so.
What?
And I do. I think so. I think she's a hard worker. I think
nose is growing.
I think right now, whether you like the president or don't like the president, she's got the ear of the president, and that's not.
You mean she's up his ass?
Well, whatever it takes, because our governor's not helping us out in that situation.
That's true.
That situation. So, whatever it takes to try to bring something into this area, or get extra help or assistance for this area, I'm all for. And and
she's just lying in her pockets, though.
But how is she lying in her pockets? How is she lying in her pockets any worse than the other ones?
But she doesn't show up to these town meetings. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to debate anything. She doesn't want to really talk. She avoids the media and the press, and I feel like she just hides. Yeah. I don't see her working at all.
I'll say this: when I've contacted her on certain issues, things like that, it's been responsive. She's been responsive, and her staff have been responsive.
Okay.
So, from my personal opinion, I see it, and I see that she's out there actually trying to do the will of the people themselves. I mean, the trouble with these town meetings, and it's not just only with her, it's with people, and it's on both sides of the coin, is that they become shouting matches for the disenfranchised, for the people that are being represented by that particular person. So if you are a extreme conservative, you're going to have a large liberal contingent show up at your meetings and tell you all the things why you're the Antichrist. If you're an extreme liberal, you're going to have the large portion of the conservative contingent show up and scream at you why you're the Antichrist. And there's nothing in between. I think that's a lot of the problem that we're having nationwide right now, is there is no in between.
There's no compromise.
And there's no compromise, and there's a lot of stupidity, and there's a lot of people who have so far lost contact with the general public and the American people that it's not even natural for them to be there.
They don't even know who their constituents are.
They don't know who their constituents
They're
are.
in
They
their
don't know
bubble.
I mean, they, when they sit there and say, well, it's just going to cost you this. Okay, well, my health insurance per person, and for all the people I pay it for who work for me this year, went up, I think it was like $120 a person. And for them, who was making, $198,000 a year, it's not that big a deal.
What was that?
I think somebody's lawnmower got stuck.
All right.
So
Anyways,
it's not, it's not that big a deal. So, for myself, it was a big deal because it's, multiply it by the number of people who are working for you. So with that, there is these.
Doesn't look like much on paper, but when it looks at like people's bank accounts and their the way they live and their lifestyles, it's a lot more than just on paper.
Like one of the things that when I was in office, they said, well, this tax increase would only mean an extra $7.90 a year for the a owner of a house assessed at $50,000. And I looked at the guy and I said, well, how many houses in the city are assessed at $50,000? Well, I don't really know. Okay, well, what's the median? What's the median?
You should know
value?
these numbers.
And we found out the average home was assessed at $72,000 in the city of Utica. So I said, well, why don't we go with the average instead of the low end? And as much as that little bit, but it bothered me that they were just trying to who has a $50,000? I don't. I'll admit it. I don't have a house that's assessed at $50,000, and a lot of people I know don't have a house that's assessed at $50,000. So what is the actual number, and what should it be? So there is a lot of people who are very, very out of touch with their constituency.
Yeah.
And the sad part is their constituency is so...
I feel that's Claudia.
Don't give a shit about what goes on. They just put their hands in the air and say, oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I assisted someone trying to run a campaign who went out and did all the right things. They went out and knocked door to door. They knocked on people's doors over and over and over again, handed them the flyers, handed them their position papers, did all these things. And the people at the door would go, oh, yes, absolutely, I'm going to vote for you. You're great. You're terrific. And they get to the voting booth and they pull the same lever for the same person they did over and over and over because they're used to it. Mm-hmm. And the thing I always go back to is county legislators. County legislators in the city of Utica, they vote for the same person over and over again because they don't know any different.
The devil they know
nobody knows
better than the devil they don't know.
Nobody knows who their county legislator even is. Nobody knows what a county legislator does.
Mm-hmm.
And all these guys do is say, yes, Mr. Precenti, we're going to do whatever you need us to do. So I think that when you look at the thing I guess I like about Claudia is she's kind of out there on her own. All these political people in this area are dead set against her, but they can't beat her because she outworks them through the district. And that's the truth. I mean, when they tried to run this guy from downstate against her for the assembly.
Babinick. No, that was the last guy.
That was the last guy.
That's right.
This guy down when she was running for assembly, and they were all backing this guy. Well, she trounced him. And there's got to be a reason for that. She's got to be listening to somebody and taking care of somebody and making sure that the people who are going, otherwise they wouldn't vote for her. And then when she ran for Congress, obviously, spoke to somebody about something. I mean, obviously there was a conservative wave that swept through the country at the particular time, and that's what occurred at that time. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens this time here.
It's going to be brutal, this election.
It's going to be worse.
That's what Caleb checked in and asked if she wins in a re-election.
It's going to be brutal. That's going to hit national attention, too.
It is going to be what the feel in her district is about the president. That's going to tell the tale.
Uh-huh.
And like right now, I don't think Brindisi's doing himself any favors. I mean, he's the one out there who's running this campaign. I think it's going to get extremely ugly for him.
It's going to get real ugly.
Both
sides.
Well, on both sides, yeah. Once the PAC start, the advantage she has is she's been vetted. on a national level. He hasn't yet. And that's the part that's going to get scary for him, especially with this stuff with these emails and things like that coming out about the hospital. And,
Right.
You know, the fact that you really shouldn't call your constituency a bunch of idiots. I mean, that's not flattering for anybody, you know. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Talk about somebody who hasn't paid health insurance, right? We mentioned that earlier, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
kind of born with everything.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what it's like to work a real private job.
A real private job. And a real private job
private sector job, I should
Well,
say.
that's it. You know, and look, I mean, I've
neither one of them, to be honest with you.
Well, no. I mean, I say, you know,
has Claudia ever got her hands dirty? I doubt it.
Oh, I'm sure they're pretty dirty.
Highly doubt it.
I'm pretty sure they're dirty.
It's you know.
Well, the thing what pissed me off with her was the whole net neutrality thing.
And then Todd said that she never replied back to him.
Right, yeah. That aggravates me because if you're for your constituents, then you should be against this whole repeal of net neutrality. And that's our livelihood here around Disruption Network,
sure it is.
you know, because this is like how we you know, make our living and pay our bills and stuff like that. It's through the internet.
You know, I think that certainly is out there. And look, it's easy to take a stand against something when your presumed opponent has already taken a stand for it. And you have nothing to gain or lose by it.
And that's the thing that pisses me off too. It's like, okay, so your opponent is taking this stance, so that means you have to take the complete opposite. There's never any kind of like middle ground.
Right.
No, like
it's always gonna be left wing,
right wing. Or even if you truly believe the other side is correct, they will not. They will go against it just because their party. You know.
Yeah. I mean, the way government's working right now, there's a huge argument in my mind for things like bipartisan elections, where you don't need to have a party. Just get the signatures, get on the ballot, run. Like California's gubernatorial races, just get on the ballot and run. Whatever your position is, we don't give a shit what you are.
So you got the support.
Whatever you are, if your position makes sense and you're able to get that across to the American people or to your constituency, then that should be what gets you to where you got to be. That should be your next level. Instead of being backed by the Democrats or backed by the Republicans and being cast with that. You know, I mean, I'm Republican, sorry, I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. I was a Republican, but as a Republican, you're anti-abortion. Am I? You know, you're this. Am I?
Right.
Well,
They want to
that.
pigeonhole you into.
You know, and you know, the thing is that people would laugh because you know, on a city level, you can't do anything about this garbage.
Right.
As rotten as the job is on a city level, to quote Ed Hanna, it's a rotten job. But as rotten as the job is on the city level, because you can get a call for a dead cat in the street. You have to figure out a $66 million budget. You have to settle a police contract with a union that will basically handcuff the city, no pun intended, for the next forever. I mean, once you give a union a concession, that's going to stay there forever. You say, okay, we're going to give you an extra half-hour work a week. That's there forever. It's going to cost the city X times infinity. So, I mean, these are all things that you have to deal with and you have to talk about. Flip side is that you are accessible. I mean, you're in the grocery store. You're not in Washington, D.C. You're in the local bar or restaurant. You're not in, you know, I mean, an interesting story. Way back when my kids were young, I used to go up to the to Sangertown Mall in the mornings on the weekends and let them run around during the wintertime because they, you know, had to get a little steam off. I'd get a cup of coffee. I would sit there, and my kids would run around like crazy in the center of the mall. So that we would do this, you know, every other week or whatever, every other weekend. And one day, there's the old timers are sitting at the table next to me, and the guy comes over to me, and goes, "How you doing?" I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm watching my kids. He goes, "You probably don't want to talk to me." So I'm like, okay, I gotta know. So
we're not off on the right foot right now.
I said, "Oh no," I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Nah, I'm not going to bother you with it." I said, "I assure you, you already have." So you may as well just finish the game right now. He goes, "Well," he goes, "the golf course." Now, mind you, it's middle of winter. Okay. I said, "Yeah." He goes, "The golf course." I said, "Uh-huh." I said, "What about it?" He goes, "The commission." Because there's a commission that runs the Valley View Golf Course. There's a golf commission appointed by the mayor. I said, "Okay. What about it?" He goes, "You put a woman on it." I looked at him and I said, "Really?" I said, "This is what this is about?" He goes, "She don't live in the city." I said, "I assure you, she lives about 3 doors from me. And if she doesn't, I don't." And I do. He goes, "Well, she'll golf there." And I said, "Huh." I said, well, let's think about why maybe that's the case. Because assholes like you think women shouldn't be involved in any of this stuff. So why would they want to golf near you? Why would a woman want to golf near you when they already know you don't like them because they're a woman? And I'll guarantee you one thing. I'll put $500 up right now that she can beat you in a game of golf. So he says, well, I could see I can't change your mind. I said, no, you can't. Bye. And then he walked away. And it's just one of those things that they feel as though
that's their biggest gripe.
They can talk to you. And and kind of it gave you an example of this even further. One time Pataki came in town when he was governor. He was Ray Meyer was good friends with him. He always hung out with Ray Meyer, and Pataki liked to stop places along the way and just get a bite to eat in the middle of nowhere, and just to see what the reactions were. So we were driving around, and I was in the vehicle with him, and they go, "Oh, let's stop at this diner over here." And so, okay, great. So we stopped at this diner, and we go and we sit down, and I'm sitting there, Ray Meyer's sitting there, and Pataki's there, and this older person comes over. She goes, "I hate to interrupt you," she says, "but I know you're Mayor Julian." And she looks at Ray Meyer. She goes, "And you're Griffo, but I don't know who you are," to Pataki, which gives you an idea that they don't know. They don't know, and so it's these people are allowed to kind of skate. Like if you're, if a congressman from an adjoining district walked in here right now, you wouldn't know who it was. Right. But if a mayor from Rome walked in here right now, you would. Yeah. I know who she is. And interestingly, I wouldn't. It's like Blossom all grown up.
Give a bell.
So anyway,
that's great.
See, you get loose. This is what happens. You're gonna get a call today.
I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah,
I told you already.
I love it. I love that you don't care
until they start signing my checks, man. It's just not happening. So it's one of those things. There's just that accessibility that they can see you mowing your lawn and pull over on the side of the street and have a conversation with you about something that's very, very important. I mean, one guy told me that I should have the city come and cut the tree down in front of my house because he couldn't see the flashing red light that's on the corner. And I said, "I'm not cutting the tree down in front of my house. What the hell's the matter with you?" And he goes, "Oh, you seem to be getting a little hot about this right now." I said, "You pull over. I'm cutting my lawn. You tell me I got to cut the tree down in front of my house? Go fuck yourself, And I think I probably said that one too many times to people, which indicative of the 2007 election results.
now you get reelected, no problem.
Yeah.
Well, would you ever think about running again or not?
I don't know.
You just love your sanity.
There's part of it that says, yeah, it would be pretty cool to try to do it again with everything I've kind of learned in the time since that time and now, and everything that I learned during that time. And there'd be certainly some things I would do differently. I can't exactly put a finger on what, but I'm sure I would do things differently.
Yeah.
Where do you fall with the hospital?
I think the hospital is a terrible idea, and I'm going to tell you why. I think that the fact that this is, first and foremost, most importantly, the city of Utica should not have to put up a dime for this hospital. This is a regional asset. If it's a regional asset, it should be treated as such, and no matter where it goes. I mean, I'll ask you this question. If they built that hospital at St. Luke's campus, and they said, you know what, we need a parking garage to make this hospital really work, would they make New Hartford come up with $27 million for that?
Probably not.
No, absolutely not. And so the fact that it's going to do that, it's going to cost more properties coming off the tax rolls. It's going to have to relocate the police station, the courthouses, which is going to be a multi-million-dollar incident. The fact that the businesses that have stayed downtown and have made it work for so many years when no one else would are being treated like absolute garbage is offensive to me. And it's typical and indicative of Edge, Steve DeMio and company, and how they do things. They do things under secret. I've talked to some people who were properties owners down there who basically the appraisers came in and said, we're going to do an appraisal on your property. And they said, okay, well, would I be able to see that? And they said, well, that's up to Edge. If they don't want to give it to you, they don't have to give it to you. And they said, get out of my building then. I don't want you in my building. And that's wrong. I mean, why should they not have this opportunity to look and see what the valuation of their building is? Plus, if you look at places that are down there, Corrigan was on a radio show this morning talking about this $3+ million worth of what he would have to pay to rebuild the shelving and rebuild the way his building is laid out and to replicate that somewhere else. And they're not going to give him anywhere near that $3 million for his building. You know that. So what's he supposed to do? I mean, is a private business owner supposed to take an enormous hit like that just on a happenstance that this hospital plan may or may not work? I think it puts a burden on the city of Utica and the fact that they have to do a lot of the street work and a lot of the street work that'll be done down around there.
Well, what about the $350 million though? What do you do with that money if you don't build the hospital? I mean,
build it at St. Luke's.
Build it at St. Luke's.
Yeah.
Was that even an option on the table?
That was an option on the table, but if you go through the emails that were released,
right?
That it is an option on the table, but it was all forced downtown for whatever reason. And I'll say this: I mean, I'm a frequent flyer in the hospitals and things like that due to having an ailing father and a mother who's elderly also. And after spending a few hours in a hospital with a relative who may be sick or may be hurt, or whatever, the last thing I want to do when I walk out and get in my car is stop somewhere and get something to eat. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to take a shower and get cleaned up after being in there, and essentially get past these points. And I think that's enhanced restaurants. It's going to enhance this. It's going to enhance that. And I've gone out to the hospital out in Syracuse when a family member was in there. And the same thing. I didn't support the businesses around the hospital in Syracuse. I got there, and if anything, I would go down to the cafeteria, get a cup of coffee, maybe like a bagel or whatever, and come back up from there and sit in the hospital room, and that would be it. I wasn't going out and getting a 10-course meal on the way home. I was going home, period, because by the time you leave that, it's just you're done. You want to be out and done with it. I think that the fact that they're actually looking at the city of Utica to pony up this kind of money, $27 million for the garage, I think is 100% wrong. I think if the hospital is truly going to be looked at as a regional asset, which it is, it should be looked at just like Griffiths Air Force Base is, and the county, filling up most of the monies, paying most of the monies for all the improvements there. I mean, they just put $12 million into a lounge for private air traffic at Griffiths Air Force Base. Now, can you tell me the population of Oneida County that's going to go through that private air lounge that they spent $12 million on? It's probably not a very big percentage.
Very
Can
minimal.
you tell me the population of Oneida County that's going to go through the doors of a new hospital? I'm sure it's bigger. It's a regional asset. When their argument is, well, it supports other assets in the city of Utica, supports the Utica Odd, regional asset, supports the courthouse, regional asset, supports the police station, truly a regional asset, governmental buildings, regional asset. Bars and restaurants, all regional assets. If it supports the U District, this U District is going to be a regional asset. And I look at it and say that it's just unfair to ask the city of Utica taxpayers to pay not once but twice for this. Furthered by the fact that, Oneida County has basically pillaged every resident of this county for an additional 1.5% on the sales tax for the last 10 years.
Good choice of word, too, pillage.
That they initially said, oh, it's going to be a Medicaid sales tax. Here's the news flash. Medicaid never went up. It actually went down since the time they put that tax into effect. I stated that at the time. They, on just that additional 1.5%, at the time I was in office, were making an additional $35 million a year. That's wrong. I mean, that's just plain wrong. They're actually they are trying to contain themselves and hold themselves out as these financial geniuses, which in fact they're not. Give me an extra $35 million a year, and I'll do some great things too. But they just can't keep taking and taking and taking like they're trying to do. I think the hospital plan, it'd be nice to have a new hospital. I have great concerns. I'm in the hospital with a parent, and they say, okay, right now we're going to have to wait because we don't have any rooms. And I say, well, what about the other hospital? And they say, no rooms there either.
They're automatically no.
And we're going to cut 100 rooms out of the new hospital. And we're going to cut staff out of the new hospital. And we're going to cut ER rooms out of the new hospital in order to build this when we contain the two of them. The other problem I have, and Mr. Schofield from MVHS said it, they asked him about what's going to go on with St. Elizabeth's Hospital. And on the news, he said, well, it could be apartments, it could be housing, it could be a doctor's offices, it could be a bunch of things. She goes, but it's not going to be my problem because we're going to sell it. That's horrible. I mean, they should.
Who's going to buy it?
Who's going to buy it? And the concern is it's going to be low to moderate income housing or something along that line. And let's face it, we have plenty of nursing homes. We have plenty of other types of facilities like that in the area. It's a huge building. Anybody who were to buy it, I mean, and all hospitals have contamination through their HVAC systems, which is extremely expensive to take and to clean all this stuff out. You have a parking garage that's in desperate need of repair behind that.
So small, too.
And what are you going to do with that besides take it down, which is not a cheap venture to do.
See, my problem with these hospitals is, like, they are so hard to get around in. Like literally, I get lost every time I go to these hospitals.
Well, it feels like 1972 when you step in these, like St. E's and going to St. Luke's.
Yeah.
It feels like you're stepping back in time.
Well, you can tell the different editions, that's for sure, because you're walking through the 70s and the 60s and the 40s and the 90s. Oh, wow, there's Denny Terrio over there. He says. So you know, there is a need, but at the end of the day, it's this: saying that a new hospital is going to bring better health care to this area is like saying if we built a new Capitol, we'd have better government.
Well, unless it came with new doctors.
That's the whole thing.
It needs new doctors.
It needs new doctors because I believe me, I've got some rotten horror stories that we could go into.
Ditto here.
You know, and everybody has one, and everybody has one, and a lot of people have more than one. If you get there enough times, you're going to have well more than one. And you got some great people who are working there as well. That's the flip side. You got some great people who are working there who love their jobs and do a great job, and it shows. But you know, the idea of going to Syracuse for everything is, you know, in a lot of people's minds. We're going to Cooperstown.
And it takes away from Utica, too. It just
takes away from Utica.
Yeah. Where would you propose, and you could also die in transport, but you know what I mean? Like, where would you put a hospital, ideally, if you had to?
I think if it had to be sited in the city of Utica, I would put it on the state hospital site.
The Old Main?
Old Main site, yeah, behind there. So plenty of acreage. It would clean up that site, which has been a bane to the existence of people in West Utica for a long time. It's filthy. It's disgusting. They take down buildings a little bit at a time. That one building on the corner of Noyes in York is over 1 million square feet, and it is decrepit. It's a rotten building. It's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of places there, a lot of room there. State already owns it.
But what about
it's already
accessibility,
tax-free.
Like accessibility?
I don't think it's any more or less accessible than downtown is, especially with the new road coming right up the hill there. You can run.
Well, because you know, I can see in downtown you have the arterial right there, and you get the exits right coming right off of there, and then you know, you also have a 4-lane road with Riscony Boulevard. But like over there in that area, everything's, you know, regular one-way traffic.
Yeah.
2-lane.
Yeah, we certainly could see that. But if you're going to talk truly accessibility, you're going to deal with the weather issues too. You have to think about that. There's going to be no better place than St. Luke's, because up there you have not only, you know, New Hartford, town of New Hartford plows, state plows, county plows. I mean, that road can be plowed literally 4 times an hour.
Wow.
To make sure that you're really making sure stuff gets in and out of there.
What about the old Charlestown Mall? What about over that area? Like, would that fit over there? Like, is that too small?
What do they?
Why do you hate me? Why does he hate me?
What should they do with that thing? They just demolished that thing, no?
That would be cool just to blow it up, wouldn't it?
Right?
That place used to haunt me as a kid. Walking through there used to terrorize me. Just,
oh, man.
It was so creepy.
I remember shopping there, if you want to do
really. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, same here.
You know, it's kind of crazy, but is that what the Griffo is in there? It's kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying? No, it's, you know, the wooden floors there, it was actually, and what's interesting is it was actually a pretty revolutionary idea at the time. Put all these outlet stores in this place, and people did come here from far and wide to go to the Charlestown outlets, and this is before the Exit 42s and the Woodbury outlets and all these things like that people go to now. But this was like the precursor to all those places like that.
Wasn't it like a Savage Arms or something owned it?
I think it was Savage Arms at the time, yeah, at one time, yes. And the building and the structure itself was actually nice, and some, you know, the old restaurant they had there, and then it turned into the
Charlie
bar
G's.
Charlie G's, yeah. I mean, it was really actually pretty nice, but
and they had the pond with the koi fish and all that. Yeah, it was. Was that in the 60s, 70s when that first came out?
That was in I think it was the mid-70s.
Mid-70s?
Yeah, I think the mid-70s that opened up like that. But
because my grandmother used to take me there shopping all the time.
Here.
Charlestown, USA.
Hang out the yarn barn.
Didn't you get charged 2 different taxes? You got charged Herkimer tax at one end, and then Oneida County at the other end.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that building?
I think that building's gone.
It's just got to go, right?
Go down, yeah.
But that's going to cost.
You know, and that's some of the issues. You know,
and where does that fall? Is that at Herkimer or Oneida County flipping the bill on that?
I think it's a little bit of both, isn't it? I think the other issue is the contamination there too. I mean, you're dealing with lead paint, you're dealing with asbestos, you're dealing with these. A lot of it is just basically rotting into the ground, and mold, all that good stuff. I'm sure a lot of, animal feces and things like that. I mean, pigeon shit is basically a hazardous substance. So,
and then you got
enough of it.
Kick out all the crackheads that are probably in there right now.
Listen, those are good people. Those are good people.
Tim, what about the roadways in Utica? This has always been an issue.
Always been
all the potholes and what's your solution to all that?
I don't know if there is a good solution.
No?
I think the council put forth this paving plan. And they did go along with it. They did vote it in. I think it's very, very difficult to hamstring any municipality. Say you must pay this much for this each year.
Right.
Otherwise, because
the costs go up every year too.
The costs do go up every year. And further, to look at a road and say, okay, this road is going to take this much to fix it. You can't know that. You dig the road up, and then you might see some major problems underneath it. I mean, that goes a lot.
Which they did at the arterial when they were doing the arterial. They were digging up the road and those sinkholes.
The arterial dam.
What's that?
The arterial dam.
The arterial dam. That worked out pretty well.
Right in front of that new Stewart's, they had a sinkhole right through there.
Yeah.
And they had to rebuild the infrastructure there as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's that. I mean, the pedestrian bridge, however many millions that cost, probably the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen.
It looks great. I don't think I've ever seen anybody use it.
I've never seen anyone use it. I mean, I used to call it like literally, it's like just it's the place to stop someone in the middle of it. I mean, you could all sorts of bad things can happen in the middle of that bridge. You get one person on one side, and the other person on the other. It's just a bad place to be stuck in the middle of. And that was always my greatest concern on it. And the fact that they didn't build it the right way, the slope was wrong for the wheelchairs. They had to change that. And then the worst part about it is, I mean, kids are kids. If there's something that's 50 feet down the road, they're going to go across the road because I'm not going to go all the way over there and take that. So it's it's unfortunate, and I don't think it's going to do what it was meant to do.
And we already seen the mistake they made with the up further over by the Broderick building where they got all those concrete barriers.
Yeah, Jersey barriers, yeah.
And it made a big old
dam.
Yeah, with all the water when we got the floods.
Listen, West Utica needs a swimming pool.
And a grocery store.
And a grocery store. No, it does. I mean, those are things
you
that
definitely need a grocery store.
That would be a big advantage, in a place that, there's Aldi's over on the arterial now, which is closer to West Utica, and Aldi's is a great store.
Yeah.
So things are changing for the better, and some of the retailers are seeing that this market is accessible. That being said, I've been kind of concerned at some of the developers that you talk to and say it's a difficult navigation through the city of Utica to find out how to do things, and that's wrong. I mean,
I don't think so at all. Have they ever been to Boston?
Well, I'm not saying navigating like driving through.
Okay.
I'm saying navigating through the bureaucratic red tape
I got
in
you.
order to come in and build a building. I mean, one of the things that was kind of funny is I was out at a shopping center conference in Las Vegas. I just so happened to be there, and I met the kid who eventually ended up bringing the Walgreens into the area, and he's like, he goes, well. He goes, you're the mayor? I said, yeah. He goes, I want to put a Walgreens in. I said, that's fantastic. Do it. Let's do it. And he goes, I did a planning board meeting. I said, well, when do you want it? Well, when can I have it? I said, tell me when you're going to be there, and we'll do it. He goes, you'd set a special meeting for me? I said, absolutely. For something like that, sure I would. And he was like dumbfounded by that this was actually going to happen. And we got that through as quick as we possibly could. We ended up with the Walgreens on the corner of Shepherd Place and Genesee Street, which was a big bonus for the area. We went from a building, the old telephone building, which was assessed at like $240,000, to the Walgreens, which was assessed at like $2.8 million. So it's pretty substantial. I mean, if you can get those things through and get them through quick enough. And the thing I always wanted to race to first. I knew that, once something comes into the market, they want to be all around the market. And I always wanted to have it first. And actually, it was kind of comical. One of the guy from Applebee's came in before they built at Riverside Mall, and they're like, they go, we want to bring an Applebee's into here. I said, okay. And he's like, I need this 50-foot high mast sign. I said, for what? He goes, people got to see it from the thruway, otherwise they're not going to get off the thruway. I said, if they see it from the thruway, it's too late.
Yeah, right.
They're past it, And he's like, I got to have this sign. And he said, I really need it. I said, look, if you came to me first before you built New Hartford, I'd give you your sign. But I'm not going to give you the sign. He's like, well, what do you mean by that? I said, it's old hat, man. It's Applebee's. I said, if we were the first Applebee's in the area, it'd be great. It'd be like a celebration. I said, but what am I going to be, a third? I said, you got one in Herkimer, for Christ's sake. He's like, well, that's wrong. I said, no, it's not wrong. I said, for the third one. I said, who cares? It's Applebee's. I said, I'll put something else here. Bring me a TGI Fridays. I said to him. He's like, I don't want to do those. So
Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel.
Oh, yeah, I like
Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel. People love the Cracker Barrel.
I love Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel.
It saved us being a touring band. You get discounted on meals for touring musicians. Saved us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Those
That's awesome.
country apples. Oh my God, those are great.
Yeah. A couple more things before we get. This has been great. Thanks for coming in, by the way. This has been really cool. I've had a lot of fun.
I'm usually not allowed to vent this long.
I know.
Wheel me out by now.
That's the beauty of podcasting. We go as long as we want.
Gladys, here's the riddle.
What does term limits mean to you, my friend?
Oh, man. Term limits are something that I think every level of government should have.
Right.
And I think it should be a set 8 years in the city of Utica, because that's what the people voted for. The people voted for 8 years.
And that's what freaking pissed me off more than anything.
And the council overturned this on their whim and whimsy, not unlike the Oneida County legislature just voting themselves a 100% raise.
Right.
Going from like $8,500 a year to like $16,000 a year. And that is offensive when the people aren't allowed to take part in the government that's governing over them. And I think that the people overwhelmingly voted for those term limits to be 8 years, and for the council themselves, and a small percentage of the council, and I will go one step further to say a lesser percentage of the council, because here's why. You had 3 at-large council people, and you had 6 regular council people. So if you look at District 1 voted for it, District 2 voted for it, District 3 voted for it, District 4 voted against it. So then District 5 voted for it, and District 6 voted against it. Now you had basically 4-2. But then, if you throw in the population that is being represented, you had 1 at-large versus 2 at-large. 1 voted for it, 2 at-large voted against it. So the reality is, if you want to take the weighted vote of each one of these council people, they actually voted against it. Mm-hmm. The population that they represent voted against it. But that being said, 1 person, 1 vote in the council, the vote was actually, went the other way. But I think that played out a very important part of the 3rd Ward council race, where the person who voted for the term limit extension lost. And, really up there weren't a lot of issues, and that was a major one. That was a major issue, and I think that played a role in that particular race. The other races, they didn't fare too well. The guy in District 2 didn't beat by a lot the guy who pretended he was a U.S. Marine. I mean, this guy came out and lied about being in the service. Yeah, I was in the service. I was a U.S. Marine. What? Yeah, you didn't hear that story?
Wow. How long ago was this?
This was the last election. These guys like, yeah, he goes, I'm a U.S. Marine War veteran. And they're like, U.S. Marine War veteran. And then they find out he was never even in the Marines. He was never in the service. And they asked him, and he said...
He was an Eagle Scout.
He said, well, I guess I kind of enhanced that part. You didn't enhance it. Enhance it is taking something you did and making it bigger. This guy, imagine him on a date. Anyone? No. I memean, that's terrible. I mean, that's what they call it, stolen valor or whatever it is. He's out there saying
catfishing.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah, but it was, and he was found out. And the guy from District 2 who voted for the term limits didn't beat him by a lot. And if you can't beat someone who said that they were a U.S. Marine combat veteran
and lie about it,
go home and look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, wow. So there's I think that played a big, but I think it's reprehensible that they would take that away from the public, the opportunity to vote on something they voted on before. And
it means our word means nothing. Like our vote means nothing.
It means nothing. Right.
It was just a waste of time.
That's like saying, oh, okay, I just lost the election, but I'm going to write this law that says I get more time. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, it's the same thing. So, and I also think that there should be term limits on the state level. I think there should be term limits on the national level. Mm-hmm. I think there should be term limits at every level of government. And, that would do a couple of things. First off, it would eliminate all the pensions for these governmental employees. I mean, if you serve 2 terms of Congress right now, you get your pension, which is equal to your salary for the rest of your life.
Really?
Yeah, not a bad gig. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you get the health insurance, too,
right,
which is a hell of a lot better than the health insurance we get.
Right.
For the rest of your life. And your family does. Nice.
Amazing.
Right? Yeah. It's golden rule, man. Those are the gold make the rules.
Just winning 2 terms.
2 terms.
What about 1 term?
You get something.
You get something.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, well, sure. You don't just...
For the rest of your life, though?
Rest of your life.
Yeah?
Yeah, and your spouse. Their life.
Now, you be a mayor. Do you ever get a pension down the road?
I got...
When it's time to retire?
I got 8 years in the New York State retirement system.
Do you? Okay. So they include those 8 years.
That's 8 years, and, that gets you, like, I think you get a free coffee.
And you could go to Taylor and the Cook for the night.
If I get a reservation, which I mean, you don't really get a lot for 8 years. But
See, I also think with the term limits, though, besides the financial stuff that you just mentioned, is getting fresh blood in there. These people sit on these seats forever, and they, like you said, they're the name that people recognize, so they just keep voting them in because.
Sure. I would go. There was a lawyer who was in City Hall who had been there since literally 1972. And when I would tell you, I would go in there and say to him something like, hey, can't we do this? And he'd say, about as condescendingly as freaking possible to me, well, in order to do this, we got to, we've tried it before, so when all else fails, let's go to the book and see what the law was back then. And one time I turned and I said, listen, you fuck, you can't talk to me that way. I said, you understand that? I said, I'm sick of your condescending bullshit. I said, so go to the fucking book and maybe we'll figure out how to make a law instead of just reciting it from now on. He didn't like that, so he hated me from there on in. So he did shit for me from there on in. He did nothing.
Well, you had to put him in his place, though.
But you know what? It pissed you off. I mean, after a while, I think the worst part about that is I actually got comfortable in the job about the time I was leaving it. When I was just basically telling everyone to say, just screw off.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, I had some years in there. I got some years in the state retirement system, but it's not worth anything. It's sort of something, but I don't know. It's not a lot. Not a lot, so
it's not a lot,
and it's not worth it. It wasn't worth it.
No, it wasn't. One more thing too, the sewer systems in Utica are completely shot. And we were talking earlier. We kind of touched on the water system and the Mohawk Valley. What needs to be done with the sewer systems? Is it true there's part of the sewer systems that are completely made of wood?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, oh yeah,
really.
Yeah, at one time in my life, I actually had the opportunity to work on some of these Mayfield houses down in. Bye. So some of these Mayfield houses, whoever you are, so these Mayfield houses down on Ida Street and helping out with that, and working as a laborer over there. And when they were digging up that street, one block of an Ida Street literally had a sewer system that went from cast iron to clay to wood.
Wow.
To and those wood sewers. God bless the guys who put them in. They were probably over 100 years old.
Yeah. And
still operational. So yeah, I mean that's a $1 billion problem.
Yeah.
That's a $1 billion problem to go through, and you have the combined storm sewers also. Those problems are exacerbated by places where they have the gutters on the houses, and you see like the little black pipes that go on the ground, and the gutters go into those black pipes. When there's a storm, all that water off the roof comes down, hits that, goes into the black pipes, goes into the main sewer system, which causes your backups and other issues like that. So the major issue is the fact that it has what they call a combined sewer system, which DEC has now stated is illegal, which is another one of those unfunded mandates. So the city has to go back and actually start to do the work on that to start to separate them. And you have to have a consent order from DEC and create a plan of how you're going to attack this problem and make it right, which is basically a separated sewer system for stormwater, and which would go back to the Mohawk River, and then a separated system for the gray water, or the water that comes out of your bathrooms and your houses and things like that, which would then go to the sewage treatment plant and then go back into the Mohawk River after that. So that's, but it's a $1 billion problem. It was a $1 billion problem 10 years ago. So there's a lot of issues like that. And, DEC doesn't do us any favors by the way they, create the laws and things like that and make things happen. There's places in the city where there could be some development. You could do like permeable caps or semi-permeable caps over the top of these properties and keep the contamination underground, because it's, you have sealed water system and sealed sewer system that's over there in these different places, and you're really not contaminating groundwater. There's no real underwater aquifers and things, and they have to look at these things on a case-by-case basis, and they really just don't. They don't give it the time necessary to do these things. That's also problematic.
Yeah, that's a shame though. It's just deteriorating. Year by year, right?
Yeah. I mean, and look, we went through a lot of years where the city did none of this infrastructure maintenance and the other stuff. And you talk about Ed Hanna putting the flowers on Genesee Street. Genesee Street was rotting from underneath, but you're putting flowers on top of it, making people, oh, look how pretty it looks. Okay, well, your car is 6 feet underground right now.
It's like polishing a turd.
It's polishing a turd. Sure. It's and it's that's where the trouble lies. Where you can't. And the other side is you have a city with an infrastructure for 110,000 people with 60,000 people being here still. So you really have, half the, you need half the infrastructure you really have. But the trouble is, how do you, if there's 10 houses on a street and one on each end, how do you shut the infrastructure off in the middle of that? You still have to replace that. You know what I mean? Because it has to go from one end to the other. So it's a difficult situation. There's a lot of issues that face it, and and that's, I guess, when I look at a lot of government waste and I look at some of the money we spend to rebuild countries, other places, that's what kind of gets to me, is that we have a lot of issues, and those same issues here that the money should be being spent on. And, look, I think a military parade, not the greatest idea. Okay.
Don't get me started.
But I think if there's like this weird cash crop or something that we made legal, that generate a lot of tax dollars.
Yeah, look at Colorado.
Listen, guys, that's
all I'm saying.
That's
Look
your
at Colorado.
Governor Andrew Cuomo. Okay,
True.
That's your Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's stopping that, and that could be, there's a lot of things that are.
Sessions don't help either, but
well, no.
No, I know.
Look,
no good people smoke weed. I guess.
There's a lot of things that are illegal that could probably be legal, and we cannot physically stop. So, and if it's not hurting anybody, and it's just between the people who are partaking in such activities, who are we to say we shouldn't make money off it?
Right.
And especially now that we actually have documented that it does help in a lot of medical, diseases and
not even
whatnot.
that, it makes a ton of money.
Well, absolutely.
It makes a ton of money. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, and I think
crazy.
that's what the holdup is they're trying to figure out a way that these pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, it's big farm, right?
Yeah.
But it comes down to big farm.
And then you got cigarette companies and beer companies lobbying against it as well.
But and again, if you look at it even on a more base level than that, I mean, some of the issues you may have as a individual is say you go out and you want to partake in something like this, and you buy something off the street. You don't really know what's in that.
Well, I do, but yeah.
assuming we're talking about you, I get what you're saying. No, but for the most part,
it's all natural.
But I'm saying you don't. I mean, you may have somebody unscrupulous and somewhere in that production line that said, "Hey, let me lace this with God only knows what, just to be an asshole or what have you," and you may catch that. So I think anytime you can regulate something to a level where it can make it safer for the people who are consuming it anyway, then
Well, and that's it. We hand out OxyContins like they're candy, and like all these other prescription drugs, and then we wonder why we got
opioid problem.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have something like Ibogaine that can go out there and actually help people overcome this.
85% cure rate,
and yet that's still illegal.
Yeah.
So just a lot of really messed up.
Well, it's big farm because they don't have their hands
absolutely.
in it. They got to make their money. The lobbyists.
And don't forget, not only just big farm, but you also have millions of dollars into rehab centers.
Yeah.
So if you're actually curing people, they don't keep, because how many people go to rehab? They go to rehab once, twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
And
They mask one thing for another,
and they get more drugs in rehab.
Right.
It's a great place to pick up women, I've heard too.
that in Lamaze classes.
Lamaze classes.
They're going to put out. But
you just gotta wait.
Sooner or later.
You gotta wait though.
Sooner or later.
You ain't gotta wear a condom. Yeah. But whatever.
Wow. No, but you're right though. When they do send people to these rehab facilities, they mask one drug for another.
Right.
Like they take heroin if you're a heroin addict, and they mask you and they make you take Suboxone or methadone or something like that, and it's just putting you from one
rearranging
drug
deck
to
chairs
another.
on Titanic.
And then when you realize that that's like the second time I've heard that quote. Wow, that's crazy.
Must have been someone really smart who you
I think Michael A. Smith from he said that one day on air. Well, anyways, damn, no, I forgot what the fuck I was gonna say.
Must have been too important.
The last question I do have for you though, if you were to become mayor right now, what's the first thing you change?
First off, I changed the term limits back to the 8 years. Dead on, change that back to 8 years.
Yeah.
Second off, I tear up the MOU with the Nida County on the parking garage, the memorandum of understanding or the memorandum of agreement. I'm sorry, MOA. I forget what the MOs go after that. And sit them down at the table and say, look, this is my city you're talking about doing all these things in. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Before we ever start talking about a casino downtown, I don't understand why we would give away a piece of property and say, here, come open a casino here, and you don't have to give us anything for it.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I don't get it either.
Especially when you have a ton of Indian nations all over the state now who are opening up casinos all over the place. Right. Wouldn't you be able to say, hey, what are you willing to give us for this each year, percentage-wise? Can you open up for that? I mean, wouldn't they jump at the chance? I mean, and the thing that frightens me about that, just to digress a second, is I can see the signs right now. Come down here on Friday, we'll cash your check. And a lot of people are going to walk out of there broke, and they're going to have a whole week ahead that they have to listen to their husbands and their wives and their the people in their family say, why don't we have any money this week? Well, because we lost it right off the bat. And it is an issue, and it is a problem. And not that you're highly insulated from it by being as close to Vernon as we are, but at least you're insulated from it somewhat, and it'll take a little bit of that temptation away. You're not slipping by just quick on the way home from
I thought
working.
they couldn't build any more casinos. I thought they did an agreement with the Indian Nation that within 7 counties they weren't going to put one in.
Theoretically, but I don't know how this one is even talked about, but it is an actual real possibility of this happening. But I disagree with that. I think like the Nexus Center, if you had a couple extra sheets of ice, and if you look back at what I had, it was called the Gateway Plan. It included that, what was Tartan Textile plot behind the odd, 2 sheets of ice, one he converted to an all-purpose field for either marching band competitions or for things like that. I mean, these plans were in the works almost 20 years ago, and I still have them in my basement, and I'm excited to see stuff like that happening, and I think that something like that is something that would bring people into downtown.
Yes, Nexus Center is going to be huge.
I mean, hockey tournaments, our position statewide, our proximity to the thruway.
Soccer tournaments. There are also lacrosse tournaments. And the cool thing about the Nexus Center, Ash told me, in the summertime it's going to be ice. So they're not going to compete against Whitesboro and New Hartford and Clinton, and then in the wintertime it's going to be a soccer field, so you can play indoor soccer, indoor lacrosse, and stuff like that. I think it's a genius idea.
And the thing about ice is, even if they did have ice up, there's always a call for more ice, no matter what. Everybody wants more ice.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that's...
well, a lot of these people can't drive out to Clinton and New Hartford, whatever, like they can go there.
And no one maybe some people don't want to go out there at 4 a.m.,
right.
which also happens. But, I look at... I always looked at Harbor Point and thought to myself that this could be a natural amphitheater, the way the point comes out to the center.
We've had this conversation
amphitheater
before.
there, have it built up like a Red Rocks. That could be the semi-permeable cap that you could build up this like huge, like a lifted up, almost like a natural stone formation.
Where are you talking this?
This is
in the
Harbor
harbor.
Point. Okay. Harbor Point. There, if you look at it, you'll see where it comes to a point right at the mouth of where it comes in from the Mohawk, and creating that there, which again, if you give it the proximity to the thruway, far more convenient than a Saratoga, far more convenient than a lot of these other outdoor venues, and it would be a huge draw also. I mean, you got a bunch of hotels down in that whole area now that are getting ready for some sort of infusion, and that'd be great to see something like that. I think that there is a there is a need in the city of Utica for someone to step forth and say, look, I'm in control of this ship. And with that, whether you like me or you don't like me, we're going to steer it, and it's going to go some direction. And I always said that even if you make a mistake, that still gives you a new starting point. So if you could screw up immensely, and believe me, I fucked up beyond all major comparison. And you got to some place, and you said, okay, this isn't where we want to be. Let's work our way back across and over in this direction now. So I think that's the important thing too, is we do need to try to keep moving, no matter what. I think that we need to reinvigorate the Varick Street district. I think it's changed to a point where that needs to be the adult entertainment district.
You need a restaurant down there. You need
a little
anchor restaurant.
bodega or something down there too.
Sure,
a little store.
And really, I mean, I look at some of this stuff, and one of the things that I look at and think to myself, I guess now I lost my train of thought.
See, it happens, right?
But I think that we need to have more of a wireless accessibility throughout the city, and kind of barrage people with what's going on in and around the city and some connectivity. I think that technology, if we had some real technologically advanced and savvy people working for the city, that could create an opportunity to really have some breakthrough opportunities in the city to see different things and be kind of part of a community effort. I always thought it'd be cool when I was running the Boilermaker if there was a wireless network along the Boilermaker route, and you could hear not only music, hear the bands, hear who you're running up on,
It's actually much worse because we couldn't get a single at all down there.
No, it's bad because there's so many people.
Yeah, because there is so many people. Exactly. So if you had something that was actually designated for that along the route, and you could almost have like a Bluetooth signal that you could all hook onto along the whole route, which I'm sure there's
find your friends type thing.
Find your friends. Yeah. Find out whereabouts you are when the whoever wins. And so stuff like that. I think we should probably try to take advantage of some way somehow. But the problem is that when you're fighting for every dollar to just provide the general services, it's tough to do those cool things.
See, but I think if Nano took off, we would have a lot more technologically advanced people and more money around.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Nano's going to take off?
I would love it to.
I didn't ask you that.
I don't know.
Do you think it's going to take off? Do you think it's real?
We were all gung-ho hyped about it and haven't seen shit yet.
There's a lot of people who paid a lot of money for property in Marcy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Saying this is going to be my golden ticket.
Right.
And
I think something can go in there still.
Well, I think something could go in there,
too. They built the facility.
Hospital? No. What did I say?
And it's a shame because if they did take off like the way it was supposed to, you would have an influx of a lot of technologically advanced people with money that could do those things that you were talking about. Because right now we're just dealing with not lower income, but relatively moderate income around this area that nobody's going to put forth that kind of money where other people can't afford to use it.
No, unfortunately about Nano though is if you look at it, this is one of Cuomo's initiatives. I mean, what is the Buffalo Billion where they had the solar plant out there in the was it Solyndra or whatever it was, and interestingly now they had another business that they built a whole building for in Syracuse to the tune of I think it was like $16 million or whatever, and they were supposed to bring in not a lot of jobs, but they had no contract with them whatsoever. They just built this facility, and the people pulled out, said no, and they are not on the hook for a nickel. So they're bringing another company in now that was the same people that were behind a failed business out in Buffalo, and they're bringing to Syracuse, and it's a different business, but it's the same people operating it. And it's just this shell game that keeps going on, but it's a very expensive shell game, and it's our money that they're doing this with. And again, this money could be used for so many better things. And if you made New York State, I mean, I don't know if you've ever navigated New York State's website. If you ever had the opportunity to try to get a business license.
I think I have. It's very cluttered and just
confusing. It is beyond a pain.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And what's interesting about it, it's almost like somebody different did every sub-page along the way. So even though you get used to somebody's bad ideas, the next page is somebody else's bad ideas, which are completely different. So you're way out of whack.
Even worse.
It's even so it's almost scary. But the fact that we're holding it over the Empire State and we're coming back, it's just it's just not what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that the youth are going to lead the city back, and to whatever we can do. One of the things I had in mind at the time I was in office is I wanted to utilize our local colleges, which is quite a few. I mean, when you really think about it, Utica is a college town.
It is.
And you don't really think of it that way because we don't really advertise ourselves that way. But if we did, and we were able to, what I'd like to see is a list of those graduates and where they go. And the colleges keep track of them, and the college doesn't want to give that list up. But if we were able to throw some incentives to those kids who have left the area, I mean, I always looked at it this way. Once you get out of college, say you were born and raised here, and you go to college here, say you go to Utica College, for example, one of the things, either you've got a real loyalty to your hometown, which is good and great, and we encourage that, or you're the other side that says, I got to get out of here. I got to find something. I got to have some concrete under my feet. I got to be able to get a taco at 3:30 in the morning. I got to do all these things. And when you go to these bigger cities and you get there and you're 21, 22 years, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. There's all this stuff going on, and you got parties left and right. But somewhere along the way, you realize that paying $2,500 a month for a 900 square foot apartment isn't the greatest thing you could do. And to have to have roommates, not to be able to have a car, to have that freedom to go and come and go as you please. And so, if we could find that time frame, once someone finds that someone's special and gets married or has kids or whatever and sets down those, then it's over with.
Mm-hmm.
It's over with. So if you hit them around 24, 26, somewhere in that age range there, and just advertise directly to them and say, come back to Utica. This is what it has to offer. We encourage this entrepreneurial spirit. And
Does Utica do any kind of tourist type stuff like that? Tourism?
I don't know.
Like
just off the thruway.
I always wondered
that
map. Just I always thought
the
old
coupon book,
the map with all the
places like Old Forge. I always thought about why don't you advertise to people in Utica? You know what I mean? Like you're an hour away. Like those are the people that are primarily coming there for a weekend.
Silver Beach. I mean, Silver Beach would be a great thing to advertise for. You know, I mean,
and I think that's a boat we're missing is we don't market ourselves.
Well, and you know, the flip side to all that is this: if you look at like incomes, and Utica's, you know, the income range in Utica is low. The average income range in Utica is low. But the thing I always said was a person who makes $23,000 a year is going to be far more apt to spend their money, their disposable income, in Utica than a person who makes $60,000 a year or more. Because the person who makes $60,000 a year has that opportunity to say, yeah, let's go out to Syracuse this weekend. We'll go to the mall, walk around a little bit, grab something to eat. Okay, great. The person from Utica doesn't have quite that economic means to do that, who's making the 23 or 24 or whatever it is. So they're saying, you know, okay, they're going to spend their money here. And I think that's important to us as we try to keep those dollars there. That as much as we look at this as a liability, and a person who makes $23K a year, at the end of the year, their $23,000 is gone. Person who makes the 65, well, they're putting money over here away, and they're saving for this, and they're saving for that. But I think the other thing is I think that the lower income actually spurs the economy in a greater percentage of their income, certainly, but certainly in different ways than the higher income does.
I have noticed, though, the millennials are staying home, if you've noticed. Like, there's a lot of kids staying in Utica doing positive things in the community. We could go on and on all these different organizations that are doing positive things in the community. But they're young. They're 30 and under.
And the internet definitely helps with that, too.
The internet helps, of course. But I've noticed, like, a lot of kids are just staying. They're staying here. They're going to college at UC or MV and getting a quick degree and then going on doing things in the community. So that's good. And, like, how do we keep them here? How do we continue that kind of
Again, I think we need to cater to them. I think we need to cater to them with continuation of helping out these mom and pop coffee shops and places to sit and just do your work or have a conversation or a cup of coffee or read the news. I mean, I still love to see some sort of a newsstand in downtown Utica. I think that would be cool to have that. And you got to have the critical mass down there in order to make that happen. But an opportunity to go in there, even if it's an internet cafe / newsstand. I mean, it's something that you kind of speak to them. And I was walking down in front of the Stanley one day, and as I did that, I was looking at the 258 building, and it was on my phone, and I'm flicking through it, and all of a sudden the downtown Utica wireless network came up, which we put in back when I was in office. It's nothing on either side of it, which in essence, when they struck the last deal with Spectrum, they should have made them light that up. They should have made them put some sort of content-related material or some sort of activity, or at least some sort of free, low bandwidth network on there, so people could actually access some free internet while downtown or what have you. But as I'm doing that, I'm looking up the 258 building. I'm thinking to myself, how much longer before nobody needs an office building? Really.
Right. I mean, working out of home.
Working right out of home. Working out of your car, working out of whatever, however. I mean, obviously, if there's a doctor's office, you need to go to some place to do that. But, some attorneys or different accounting and things like that, there's not going to be a reason for it. So it's interesting. I mean, and if we could gear ourselves that way now and get ahead of that technology curve, then that would be outstanding.
It would. That's something the area needs too, because Utica's never been ahead of any curve ever.
And I think they need more.
Unfortunately, it hasn't.
Except for food,
like help for people starting new businesses. You know what I mean? Like a lot of banks won't talk to you like within like first 6 months to a year. You can't, God forbid, get a loan or any kind of like assistance with that. And I think that's where Utica grows is with small local businesses, because you're not going to get a big company coming into Utica that's going to.
No, I always said give me 10 businesses employing 5 people before you give me one employing 50, because the 10 worst case scenario 2 shut down and you still got 40 people working. No matter what. We used to do what they called microloans, which were loans of $5,000 and less. Or less, like say you were opening up, again, I'll go back to say you're opening a coffee shop and you need an espresso machine, you need something, so you needed basically $4,800 worth of stuff. The city would offer that up. We used to offer up the facade grants and the facade loans, or in all cases, what's the best impact to make to drive by customers is how the front of the store looks, and when you change it around and make something immediately happen and pop out. And we would give $5,000 if you were in any other part of the city, and then they would match it. So say if you're doing, it's, as you well know, it's very easy to do $10,000 worth of work on the front of your place. That's a drop in the hat with material costs. So, if they put up 5, we put up 5. If you were in a scenic and historic district, we put up 10 to their 5. So that was something that was, that was that's out there, and that people were at least felt appreciated that they were trying to open up a business in Utica or any part of Utica. And it's sad is that I see some of these businesses that open up now, and the first thing I'll say to them is, did the city do anything for you? And they're like, no. Should they have? Right. I mean, they're unaware. And one of the things we always did was we would always send people out when we hear a new business open or someone was looking to do something. We saw some remodeling going on. We would show up there and use that old phrase, we're from the government, we're here to help, which most of the time people didn't believe. But we were trying to help people and assist people in between grants or loans or whatever else, whatever we could put together for them to make that go. Because I always got a kick out of something new opening. I always love to have elevated lighted signs when you drive into downtown and see these signs places that are up in the air and they're high up and they're lit up and it's like you look like you're coming into a place. I used to have somebody who worked for me who was like, oh, all the billboards along the arterial are legally placed. And I went, and what's your point? She said, well, we can get them all to take them down. I said, are you on drugs? I said, why the hell would you take the billboards down? This is commerce. If you go other places. And
not to mention the billboard company.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's just put Park Outdoor out of business. Yeah. If you go down these streets and other places and their main commercial corridors, I mean, there's just signs and neon and flashing shit everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere. And that's what you want to see.
Absolutely.
I mean, as a mayor, that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see more stuff lit up and more stuff happening.
And people have pride in their businesses.
Yeah. I mean, just a reason for people to stop there, and that's the whole thing. And the other thing too is like New York State Thruway Authority is absolutely just doesn't get it. Obviously, this whole deal with the signs and where they had the signs, they did them incorrectly, and yet it's difficult to get a sign on the thruway anyway. But this garbage that they put up is okay. And for Utica being the only major city in New York State that the thruway passes directly through, not bypasses, but passes directly through. We need to take advantage of the thruway some way, somehow, and get the people off the thruway at that exit. And I think with the hotels and the restaurants we have there, that's something to do.
It definitely should be more down there, like with that thruway exit there. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, like
need a turning lane in the middle of Genesee Street, North Genesee Street, number 1. A turning lane is just.
What do you feel about the roundabout over there, though? There was discussion. Boulevard? There was Riscony Boulevard, North Genesee Street, going up to that bridge. There was discussion about having a roundabout.
Yeah, there is discussion about having it. I don't know. I mean, I think the one on Oneida Square works well.
I think it works really well. I was so against it at first.
I was against it.
I were you too, but now it just makes the flow of traffic so much easier. And
if the people in front of you know how to use it, because the people who stop and wave people through, and the other people go, "No, you go through. No, you go through." It's like, no, in the circle right away.
I noticed it's gotten a lot better though.
It's gotten better.
It's the only thing your predecessor did.
It's getting better. Yeah, successor.
Successor. Got you.
Should be easy to remember. So, but yeah, I mean that was something that actually I didn't think was going to work. I honestly didn't think it was going to work. I had a lot of concerns about it, and those concerns were allayed. So I got to give them credit for putting it in and making it work and making it do. I think it greatly improves the flow of traffic there. And that being said, he and I speak quite a bit, and we do actually get along pretty well.
That's good. So you can throw the digs at him.
Oh yeah, he'd laugh. So with that, will it work on a Riscony Boulevard on on Genesee Street where you have just as much traffic coming from each direction? And
if not more.
That's the concern. I mean, you've got a lot of traffic coming east-west. You've got a lot of traffic north and south. I guess the thing that I always wonder about is why did they change the North Genesee Street Bridge on Genesee Street to 1 lane, and then coming off of Broad Street keep that 2 lanes? I mean, why didn't? I would think that the Genesee Street portion going up and over should maintain the 2 lanes, and then the 1 lane coming off of Broad Street because you're already in 1 lane anyway. But you're going from Genesee Street 2 lanes, shrinking it down to 1 lane, and then you're going over the bridge, and it spreads out to the 2 lanes again. So I don't quite get their reasoning behind that. That's a question to ask someone from DOT if you ever had them on, but I don't quite get that.
Because if you put a circle down there, I mean, like roundabout, it's going to be probably like Carrier Circle size. I mean, it's got to be a big one.
It's going to have to be big, yeah.
It's going to have to be big,
yeah.
Which Carrier Circle is just retarded, but
it works though.
No, it don't.
It does.
No,
it keeps the traffic going.
Now when you got 4 lanes of throughway traffic coming into, trust me,
it makes it exciting.
Sitting in there for about
exciting. Let's just
say 25 minutes to get into work every day. It sucks balls because it's just 4 lanes of traffic going into a 2-lane roundabout.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah, no, it's hairy. It's hairy at times, but.
Tim, this is officially the most political show we've ever had on EC Radio. Hands down, no problem. This is it. I loved it, though. This was great. You got to come back. I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface on some things.
There's a lot of shit out
there.
There's
so much shit out there. Well, please, I would love to have you come back as much as possible. So if you could, this would be great. If you ever need to vent, too, please use my platform.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Please, if you just want to get out
daily,
there.
Man. What the fuck is this going on?
Well, I do read your Facebook post. You know?
Oh, yeah. What's funny is that, I have a friend of mine who works in some of the places I talk about, in some of the governmental offices I talk about, and they don't know that I'm friendly with them. And this person will tell me, I can always tell when you put something on because they all kind of look at me a little bit funny as I walk in. Like they do know something that we're, that we're in, and they're like, let's. So as much as they'll sit there on the radio and they say, well, I don't read the posts, and they're entitled to their opinion, but I don't read it. It doesn't bother me. They do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They know what's going on, and they know that people are pissed. And you'd be foolish to think that. I guess the worst part about this, and I always say this, is that in government, the worst thing that can happen is you can think it's all for real.
Yeah.
You can think that the people who surround you, who are your friends, are real. I had a ton of friends when I was mayor.
Oh, of course. And I had a ton of friends when I was bar owner.
Exactly. See that? And a lot of those friends went away.
Yeah.
After I left office.
Good riddance.
It's like, I'd say to something, hey, what about that? Listen. All of a sudden they start to, listen, this isn't the way you thought it was before. So, and the flip side of that, too, is that I can always look at myself in the mirror and say, at the end of the day, yeah, I made some mistakes along the way, because everybody does. But everything I did was with the best interest of the city at that time, and I would do it the same way again if I needed to, because I think that was important. I did things. I always looked at things, having two young kids, as the fact that if I could do anything I could to keep my kids here when they got to that age. And that was it.
Yeah. Are your boys going to stay here?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I have one son who's at SU right now, who's having a great time there and actually learning some stuff. So,
go figure.
Yeah, go figure. A little bit of both. So he's having he's got the world in his eyes, and he always did. So, and I encourage that. I encourage everyone to go. And I mean, when I was of college age, I listened to my dad and saying, you stay here and do this, and don't do this, but here's all the things you can do. And and I think I probably would have done some things differently. Mm-hmm. That being said, staying here allowed me to do some of the things which led me to being on the show today. So I can't say that was the wrong direction.
Hey, yeah.
So
this has been fun.
You've made it. Yes, you've arrived.
Yeah, you're on Disruption Networks now. You're on the D.
On the D, the big D.
The big D.
Hey, my other son is he's over at Proctor, and I was always proud to say that all my kids went to Utica Public Schools, which I also went to all Utica Public Schools, and they always take a bad rap. They do a great job educating the kids and the kids who are there and want to learn. And my son is highly interested in film and film editing and things like that.
Oh,
and
cool.
He's actually pretty good at it as a junior in high school. And they have a studio over at Proctor, which is almost like a news studio with green screen and everything else. It's like state-of-the-art stuff. And his teacher tells me how good he is at this stuff. So that means a lot to me when I hear stuff like that. That he's out there and this is something he's interested in, and he goes on further than that to see where that's going to lead him. And maybe it leads him back here to some of the local places. Maybe it leads him to something more interesting. Maybe he's going to be the guy who films this Hollywood blockbuster I have in my mind right now.
There you go.
So, speaking of which,
yes.
What about putting more movies production in Utica?
That'd be a great idea if you can get people to do it. That's the whole thing.
Actually,
the door's been open.
Kind of doing it.
We've been doing it.
I feel like it's starting to move a little bit in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that if we, I just this. I mean, I hired Paul Buckley to come in.
It's my boy.
To Utica. Buck. Suckley.
He's been on this.
Suckley.
He's been on the show a couple times too. Wind him up and
went through a few beers that time, didn't you? But I think there needs to be some research into what this costs, what it costs other places to produce a film, and say, okay, well, and then really, if someone's looking for a certain type of neighborhood or a certain type of area, get out there and go up and down. But and you got to have those contacts in order to make that happen. Well,
right.
Here's this street exactly like you're looking for. I mean, let's face it. When you look at some of the old Freddy movies, I mean, any street in Utica almost could be the Elm Street
True
movie. You could do that. Some of the downtown stuff. There's some great stuff in downtown that you could do something. Charlestown. I mean, what a great horror movie.
Right.
I mean, you could make any Saw movie in that series.
Old Maine.
Could be shot in Old Maine or Charlestown. Any of these places like that. So there is some opportunity, but we need to get places like that are owned by the state. We need to have that accessibility to do them, to show that this is available for them, and again, cut out that stupid red tape that keeps us from getting in these places, and also need to get in these other places, be able to have accessibility to them. And if we can do that, and we can get into these places, and we can make these things happen. I mean, let's face it, you got the seasons. That happens. You got a zoo here, so you can. What love story wouldn't be complete? What rom-com wouldn't be complete without a trip and a walk through the zoo? Or take someone skiing on the ski list. And the cool thing about our ski area, if you were making a movie about people who were skiing or snowboarding or these things, is that the accessibility is right. I mean, you could pull your truck basically up to the bottom of the lift and put all your equipment up there.
Or the top of the hill.
Or the top of the hill. I mean, quick and easy, so. And
I think with our cost of living, like catering, like housing, transportation, all that stuff would be way cheaper
Way cheaper, yeah. Yeah, and it's easy accessibility in and out too. And I always thought
less traffic to block off.
Yep. And there's certainly the traffic patterns are such that if you even blocked off a whole street, it's you can
get around.
You can get around without having a major issue. It's not like some of these other major metropolitan areas that have the one way going one way. Then you're blocking off 4 blocks at a time in order to get to something. So I think that would be a super idea. And again, I think as good a job as Buckley does with it, I think you also need somebody younger who can go out and sell this.
Yeah.
And you do need that travel budget, which everyone is reticent to put that in. But, you don't know what you're missing until you go other places and say, oh, this is a great idea. I mean, as wacky as Hannah was, and he requisitioned that huge watering can, and he requisitioned that huge clothespin, and all these other things he was getting. These are things, if you go to other cities, you see it, and you think it's completely natural and normal.
Right.
But you come here and you see it, go, what the hell is a clothespin doing out here? There was a guy who used to work for me. He said that he goes, maybe they ought to have a big Prozac out in the middle of the city hall, and you can just go out and take a lick of it every once in a while. So
take a lick of the Prozac.
Take a lick of the Prozac. He goes, and you can have a big umbrella over it, so when it rains, it doesn't get ruined. And so it's just, there's ideas out there, and we haven't scratched the surface. And unfortunately, everything costs money.
Right.
And when you are just, that's what I was always angry about with. The county comes up with these ideas. We're going to do this idea. Okay, great. Well, you can, because again, you're grabbing us for extra $35 million a year in the sales tax money. You're getting 2% on bed tax at every hotel and motel in Oneida County. You're getting all these things that on top of what you're normally getting that you can do this stuff with. I mean, I think the Oneida County Convention Visitors Bureau is completely wasting its time with what it's doing, because I don't see any really effects of these efforts. But that would be something that could advertise yourself to film. I went to a convention one time, and there was a municipality, and it was in Minnesota, and I can't remember the name of the city, but they had this booth set up, and they had it set up like a fast food restaurant, and they had the boxes like Happy Meals, and they were stuffing these boxes with the information from their municipality, and they had people dressed up with their logo on it, with in uniforms that looked like fast food workers. And this was so cool, and there was so much energy around this booth. And then I saw the guy who was our Convention and Visitors Bureau guy, Ziegler, and he's over there with like a jacket, a tweed jacket with patches on the sleeves, and he's got the brochures out, and he's like tapping them so they're all eating. Like, are you missing the boat here or what? There's no energy. There was no energy there, and that's important. I think that youthful energy is important when you want to inspire people to come here and to take a look.
100%.
Younger people want to come to a hipper city.
Absolutely they do, and you want to see that. You want to have those places like the Electric Company and people putting out the music in there and stuff like that. I mean, you want to see that, and you want to be able to go to another venue after you go to that venue, maybe see some more live music and go up and down and
which I heard the Uptown just got sold.
Yeah, Uptown just got sold. That's exciting news, because the plans they have for it sound pretty cool.
I got him on the hook for an interview too, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, he's when he comes to town.
That's
good.
Mahoney?
Yeah, he's a writer in Hollywood.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and see, now here's our connections right here to maybe possibly getting some Hollywood thing happening.
There you go, man. There you go. You know what? Even if there was a venue for some of these guys who are coming out of this area who are putting together these short films. I mean, I watched a film the other day, and I don't know if you've heard of it or not. It's starring Michael Cera. It's 17 minutes long. It's called Gregory Goes Boom. And it is disturbing. If you think about Michael Cera, this goofy kid from Superbad and stuff like that, if you see him in this movie, it's like, holy shit. it's 17 minutes, and you look at it and you go, wow, that was just. There's so many things in this movie that make you just go, ugh.
Kind of like Two Girls, One Cup.
Not to that extent. Not to that extent.
I couldn't watch 17 minutes of that.
But I watch 17 seconds of that.
But if you get a chance, it's on Amazon. I think it was a Sundance winner or something like that.
Gary Goes Boom.
Gregory Goes Boom.
Gregory Goes Boom.
And it's a Michael. If you look up Michael Cera and short film, it'll pop right up on there. I think it's on YouTube also. So it's 17 minutes of your time. It's like not even a big deal. You can watch it in the car while you're driving around.
There you go.
So
Dave Bandage checked in. He says, I may not always agree with Mr. Julian politically, but I've always appreciated his effort and attempts to make Utica better.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Dave Bandage.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Faithful
Appreciate
listener of EC Radio.
Nice.
He's a regular.
Look, I'm not asking people to agree with me all the time, and I think that when people agree with everyone all the time, you lack that discourse that you need to have.
Life would suck.
But
if
at least
we
they
all
got
got
your
along.
intentions correct. You know what I mean? Like they might not agree with you per se on your policies, but they know that
Which
your
I'm for.
intentions are correct.
And again, it goes back to the thing that we got to get somewhere. So if we sit there and disagree for 10 days, wouldn't it be better if we just tried something the first day, and if it didn't go anywhere, then we try the other thing? You know, that's the whole idea. And really, you know, it's that's what I always look at when I see a lot of these elections and nobody runs against people, is that you don't even know what these people stand for. Right. You're just electing them because they're the only name on the ballot. That's sad. That's really sad that you know, and these positions that were once so highly coveted now are looked at as, so what? You know, I mean, the fact that, you know, everyone
wants to complain, but nobody wants to do anything.
And everyone's too much of a pal to do this. I mean, if you came out and ran against someone right now, say on a county level and say at the county executive level, first thing you'd have to fight the dollars of the casino, and that would be extremely difficult to overcome. And then the next thing you'd have to fight is the fact that if you were running as a Democrat, most of the Democrat Party would support the Republican. And vice versa.
Funny how that sounds right.
And, you know, but and in essence, it's almost like what you want. But
right.
I mean, I was chastised about it before. I was cut off at the time when I was a Republican by my own party because I supported some Democratic candidates who happened to be on the independence line, which I was also on. So, you know, if you're in the club, it's okay. If you're not in the club, then you're wrong.
See, and that's why I'd like to see, like, at the local levels, I'd like to see more independent party come in there and take over, and so that way there's more of a presence than just a two-party system.
The nonpartisan elections would be great for local elections, especially because, again, you know, and I think Giuliani said it. He said there's no Republican or Democratic way to pick up the trash. You know, it's just there's no.
It's true.
You know,
that's true.
Just get it done. Just get it done. So,
Tim, before we get out of here, you got anything you want to plug? You got any website or social media, or do you want to plug any business or anything you got going on? Laundromat.
The laundromat. Been there for 58 years now.
Has it really?
Yeah, 58
well,
years. My father started that in 1960. So we're right there on Oneida Street. $1 a pound, drop off your clothes. So, yeah, no, no. I mean, I really got nothing to plug. I mean, it's just things go along, work goes good, and you know, everyone tries to make a buck in the city, and you get it done. And
Utica's premier fluff and fold. Can we get a new slogan for you?
I don't know if that's exactly if that's a laundromat or something else.
People are asking if they could be a fluffer.
Yeah. The old fluffer nutter sandwich.
Be a fluffer.
Be a fluffer.
That's
Wouldn't you want to be
hilarious.
a fluffer too?
That job just sucks.
Well, thanks for coming in. This has been ring a bell. There you go. This has been fun.
Second time I've heard that today.
You guys are shot. This has been great. I'm so glad you could come in.
No,
Please
it's
come
fun.
in anytime. You got an open door policy.
I
Anytime you want to come in.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You
It's
want to
fun.
vent or bitch about anything? Please use my platform.
Yeah, after a while you'll be going, please no more.
No, not at all.
No, at that point we'll put you on
Another show. We do have other shows here that goes on Disruption Network. I want to remind everybody they can listen to this podcast and previous podcasts at EC Radio on demand at the all-new DisruptionNetwork.net website. So go check us out over there. Also, if you could, please share this video. It would help us out a lot if you could just share this video and get it out there to the masses. I want to thank everybody for chiming in today. I want to thank Tim for coming in today. Tomorrow, we got my friend Rick Short coming in.
Ricky.
Ricky's going to come in.
Inspector.
We're going to talk. Yeah. We used to play Fool's Golf. Do you remember when he used to do Fool's Golf? We used to play golf around the city of Utica with like a foam ball, and it was wild. But
he's crazy.
He is crazy.
He's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Rick's a good guy. And then Thursday, we got a great show on Thursday. Cassidy's coming in. She's got a show coming up. It's going to be her birthday party at Wakely's, and also former EC.
Baby.
Also, Old Main is going to come in to play some songs for us on Thursday, so that's going to be pretty exciting.
Oh, we're going to be jamming out.
We're jamming out. We're going to jam out. So one more time, Tim, thank you so much for
you
coming
guys.
in.
Appreciate
Let's do it again really soon, and we will see you tomorrow. See ya.
Never you mind what I'm making. You should spend some time taking a personal inventory of what you're doing for the betterment of society.
You know what the hell you're listening to? It's EC Radio.
Hey, it's Adeline Van Dyke from Coldwell Banker Faith Properties in Utica. I always get asked, why do I love real estate? It's very simple. I love my clients. I love every single thing about helping them find or sell their home. Making sure the home is solid and ready for sale, or solid and ready for the buyer's inspection, to making sure that they're getting the best rate on their mortgage, making sure they're getting the best price on their house. You know, just everything involved in the sale is vital. My absolute favorite part of real estate is when a buyer walks into the house they're going to buy. I can feel it before they even know they're loving the house. It's just that obvious. So I'd love to experience that feeling with you. So give me a call. Adeline Van Dyke, Coldwell Banker Faith Properties, 315-404-6431. Or you can find me on Facebook or visit my website at centralnewyork.com/Adeline. Thank you, and I look forward to welcoming you home.
When it's your hard-earned money on the line that you are investing into a home, it makes sense to choose a proven professional to assist you in making one of the biggest investments you may ever make. Josh's dedication of over 20 years to the home construction industry allows him to bring knowledge and experience to your doorstep. That means you can feel confident and comfortable with his service to you. Past clients love his attention to detail and thorough written reports. By allowing Priceless Inspections to help you make a well-informed decision concerning your property, you will find that a quality inspection is priceless. Follow Priceless Inspections on Facebook or call 315-525-8725. In the Mohawk Valley, for the best real estate service, you gotta have faith. Coldwell Banker Faith Properties, 315-735-2222 or www.centralnyhomes.com.
Welcome to EC Radio Podcast. We would like to thank all of our sponsors for joining the Disruption team, and we hope that you'll support all of our sponsors. And of course, we appreciate you listening to this program.